Good evening and welcome to the podcast of the Sultans of Shadilay. I am Bezic, your moderator for the evening. We'll just go through some very quick introductions. I am the resident Queenslander from Australia, and I'm also joined by Jezza.
G'day everyone. I'm from South Australia, and I've been enjoying getting rained on today while working. It's been wonderful, and looking forward to having a chat. And yes, I'm a few beers in, so expect me to be a bit loud, and I have better mic quality. Hopefully everyone agrees.
Certainly an improvement. Second Plague.
Yeah, so I'm Second Plague. I am the resident American Christian, and you might know me from the Lotus Eaters as the guy who does all those impressions and shit. And yeah.
Fantastic. Spoon.
Greetings, gentlemen. I pray the day finds you well. I am the posh boy with a fancy accent and pretentious mannerisms. Howdy.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Trim.
Hello, everybody. I am the resident Norwegian with a humongous ego, a degenerate mindset, and a zero understanding of what the hell I'm doing.
Sounds good. So, as is the plan, we are just starting off with a bit of a Lotus Eaters after show, looking at how Biden is causing America to fall apart. What shall you take us away, Second Plague?
Yeah, so, I mean, just first off, Joe Biden is just terrible. He's just so bad.
We know that already.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's paying Americans not to work and shit, which is just kind of ridiculous, especially since a lot of people are getting vaccinated at this point, where it's like, do vaccines work, Joe? Can we go back to work? Why are you paying people more than the minimum wage, Joe? Why would they go back to work if that's what you're doing? And it's also just kind of ridiculous because to pay for all of this, it is like the money printer go burr meme. And, after our government has done an absurd amount of spending on COVID to begin with, Joe Biden shows up and he's like, okay, now what we need to do, we need to print $10 trillion and we're gonna build back better with the American people. And fucking yikes, Joe. Inflation is just an awful thing because, we fight real hard against a wealth tax happening because that's kind of fucked up. You're getting taxed for income that you've already paid tax on, and we all recognize that is messed up. But
wait, that's a new thing to you?
But the thing is, if you print more money, then you're essentially doing a direct wealth tax on literally everyone who has any amount of money whatsoever, because you're redistributing the amount of money within the money someone has into money that has just been printed. And so not only are you wealth taxing basically everyone, but it's under the table because the dollar amount looks the same. But unlike a tax, it's not that obvious. So it's this very shady, sketchy way of taxing people essentially where they don't notice and it just affects everyone, which is just not good. And he also revoked the Keystone Pipeline permit, where it's like, oh, we're not gonna fucking build a pipeline or some shit with Canada because environmentalism. And it's like, okay, well, great, Joe, except we're still gonna be using the oil, so where's it gonna come from? Oh, I see. Instead of enriching a culturally similar ally and neighbor, we're going to be giving money to Saudi Arabia, Joe. How is that a good idea? And, he can just completely hide from any responsibility for any of this, because all he needs to do is get in front of a camera and say, oh, well, this is about Canada or Saudi Arabia. It's about you, your family, the people of the United States of America. And what we're doing is damaging the environment. And that needs to change. The American way needs to change. We gotta come together. And, the normie just kind of looks at him like, oh, what a unifying figure. What a moderate.
And when he says
Second.
come together, he does not mean as coming together in a group.
Joe, step away from that teenage girl. Stop sniffing her
Yeah.
hair.
Bad joke, bad spray bottle. It doesn't work.
It's a right.
Get the
See,
crowbar.
what I think you're missing is that he's after a return to the past, right? He's wanting to build back better, because what it is he's missing Long Pig. You know, you need to get back to when America was great again, right in the midst of the Great Depression. That's where he needs to get things back to.
I think you just want to go back in time because you want to meet Corn Pop again and finally settle the score.
He was a bad dude, and he ran a lot of bad boys.
Train.
With the rusty razor. Got to keep it in the water barrel. Make sure the razor gets rusty.
Put it in the right barrel, get it rusty. Bang it on the side of the curb, get it rusty. He may stab me, but I'm gonna wrap this chain around his neck. Joe.
Yeah.
It's a little spicy, Joe.
What color was
Good old
Corn Pop really?
I don't know. Yellow? Isn't that the color
Who-
that corn pops are?
That's what I would have thought. Who knows? Just a figment of Joe's imagination, anyway.
Maybe Corn Pop was
Like the fact
first
that he's
Chinese
actually president?
man he meant.
Like a figment of his imagination like that? Because after all, it is the Biden-Harris administration.
Well,
The Harris Biden administration.
and it's also like,
ding dong.
well, here's the other
now-
thing. Whenever oh, sorry.
Now that they've got the excuse of all the generals calling him doddering and old and insane and declining, might be an excellent time for him to step down and hand it over to Kamala Harris, the first female black president, who of course was voted for by literally nobody.
Step
I mean,
down
that's
a few
kinda-
stairs, of course, and do what he always does in stairs: collapse and just.
Well, that's the
Actually,
embarrassing
second.
thing too. I actually feel bad for women if the first female president is a diversity hire for vice president who then got the position of president because the sitting president keeled over. It would be like a diversity hire who then gets another position by default. That is so
But-
uninspiring.
So just like in the CIA,
Very true.
Yes.
Oh, you're talking about that? Oh my gosh. Well, I've got a question for you second, actually, because I can't remember. How long does Joe have to be the president for Kamala to then have the opportunity to have 2.5 terms or whatever it is? Does he have to be there for like until next year, or can that be replaced earlier?
Again, I mean, he can like hypothetically vanish at any point. I'm not really sure of the exact details of how much a partial term counts, but he is going to make it halfway through unless he dies, because they need him to be a PR mask for the Democrats, at least through the midterm elections. And
You know when you were talking about like the other night about his eyes, I was looking at some of his press conferences, and you're right. Like his eyes, like are these little black pits when he's talking. They are seriously freaky. I don't understand how anybody can look at Joe Biden these days and go, "Oh, what a sympathetic-looking figure." They're just wrong.
And his like sympathy voice just drips with condescension, when he's at a press conference and it gets all low and he's like, that is a problem and we have to do better. We can do better. It's like, oh god, Joe, shut the fuck up. But
there's one thing
You
to
sort
be
of feel like. Sorry, Trim. Go, Trim.
there's one thing though. Biden isn't charismatic at all, right? But I'm just gonna reference the first podcast when our dear second just described Kamala perfectly. A charismatic black hole.
Yeah.
She
Yes.
makes Biden
Yes.
look like Trump in comparison, charisma-wise.
Yep.
Well, I mean, and here's the other annoying thing about Biden. whenever I confront certain people, like say my parents or one of my friends who might be listening to this podcast, they go, no, it doesn't matter how bad Joe Biden is. He's still much better than Trump, because what about the damage that Trump did in January? He weakened faith in the democracy, and he did all this stuff, and so now people can't trust elections. I'm like, yeah, but okay, even if we accept that, Joe's doing the exact same thing, right? So there's all the confusion around the 2020 election. People are very angry. They don't trust that. And so the Democrats' solution is, yeah, all those things, mail-in voting, the votes not getting counted up until days after the election. We're going to make all of that much more extreme. Yeah, no, we're going to make it so that the votes aren't really counted up until 14 days after the election. We're going to have universal mail-in ballots and like super early voting for everything ever. No photo ID, and it's just kind of like, if Trump is a bad, evil, orange, poopy man for weakening trust in democracy, then what Joe Biden and the Democrats are proposing to do is just going to exaggerate that.
Yeah. Actually, I've got a question for you, mate, and for the rest of you guys, because I haven't talked to you about it. Have any of you ever watched Bahizzi's streams or videos, or have you even heard of him?
Can you repeat the name real quick?
Bahizzi.
Can't say that I have.
No, not familiar.
Very interesting. Okay. If you get an opportunity, he's a young bloke from, I think he's in Colorado from memory. And he talks a lot about the election audits that are going on in various states, specifically the swing states in America. And his discussions have been very, very interesting. So he talks with a few other guys and gals who are talking about the election audits, as well as to various people who are involved directly with the audits as well. So he's been quite an interesting source of information that I've been enjoying. He's also got a great sense of humor and presentation style. And second, you'd enjoy him as well because he's also a Christian, and he loves his inappropriate jokes in a true Christian style as well.
Well, how do you spell his name?
Bahizzi. It's Behizzy from memory. Behizzy. Yep, that's his channel, Bahizzi.
Oh, sweet. Okay, yeah, I'll definitely check him out. I also want to give a quick shout out to a comment in the chat by Capstasher. The Democrats won. Oh no, the votes aren't going to be counted for like 2 weeks or some shit. And so Capstasher says 14 days to slow the spread of ballots.
Oh, well done, Capstasher. That's good.
Applause
That's
to
awesome.
that guy. Well done, Cap.
And, if it goes the same as that, it's going to, like, immediately turn into, 500 days to slow the spread of the ballots. We might count them all eventually.
Exactly. It's
in the end,
all you have to remember is that the elections are being fortified. Got to make sure that the selection occurs.
Yes,
course,
the
it is
correct
based on
result is
democracy.
received.
Yeah.
Yes, correct result.
And it is kind of a white pill that to fortify, or that for Joe Biden to win the election, they had to fortify it, have a cabal of like media outlets burying negative stories about Joe Biden. They had to have the Borat guy releasing Borat 2 timed perfectly to distract from the Hunter Biden story. And they had to have COVID hit during the end of Trump's presidency. All this stuff had to happen for Joe Biden to become president. And now he's just kind of like screwing the pooch. And that's going to show up in the midterms and the 2024 election. And the real question is how, are they going to be able to keep a lid on that with Joe Biden's whole, oh, well, we're the United States of America mask, or is it going to... Oh my God.
Well, you also
Why?
one more thing along with everything else Biden has under his wings. We also need to, give a solid thanks to the scourge of necromancers who so bravely stood up and channeled forth all the zombie hordes who just came back just to vote.
Disavow, disavow, disavow.
Disavow.
Don't cancel it, YouTube. Don't shut the stream down, please.
It was a
We're
joke. It
being
was
good
a
boys.
joke.
We're joking.
It was a
I mean,
joke.
yeah.
For legal
obviously,
reasons, we're
necromancy-
required to say that was a joke.
For legal reasons, that's a joke. For Sirius, Cindy, and Mafia, please don't kill me. That's a joke.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You don't want to be like Clinton, but
No,
like
but-
the other thought that now the question I've got for you, like around the midterms, right? Now they're all for House seats, are they, or are they for House and Senate?
So House seats are every 2 years. Senate seats are every 6 years, I think.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So there are
Okay,
going to
so-
be some Senate seats that are up, but all of the House seats are up, and only some of the Senate seats, I think. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Because I'd be curious because it seems that with the House seats, there was a lot more scrutiny around the House seats in the 2020 election. Because there was a lot of recounts, like actual recounts of House seats and that sort of thing. It seems that almost that at that point there's less opportunity to fortify them than there is with the presidential election, which is amusing in a lot of ways because frankly the House seats are more important than the presidential election anyway. Because I sort of look at it and I go, the executive branch has, like, I'm not 100% around how the American
Right.
system
Well, I
works.
mean, I think you would have more of a point, but the problem here is that a lot of what the legislative branch has done is like,
Mhm.
so they want to get elected, but they don't want to shoulder the responsibility for making unpopular decisions or for making mistakes. So our legislative branch has been ceding a lot of powers to the executive branch in a way that would make the founding fathers turn in their graves. They've been giving the executive branch more power. And then the president makes
Yep.
the same decision as Congress and goes, I don't want to be held accountable for that, so I'm going to delegate that to a bunch of unelected bureaucrats and stuff like that. And that's how you end up with Dr. Fauci. And, yeah,
And then you
Please don't
jump
sing
off
that
a
song.
building and
But-
just fall
and-
down and you die horribly.
exactly. Well, and the infuriating thing about that bureaucratic element of the executive branch that has all these powers that should be in the hands of the legislature is that they're not accountable to the voters. So, like, you can't vote the bureaucrats out because they're not elected to begin with. And kind of on top of that, you can't vote for the Supreme Court either. I mean, that makes sense, though. However, the Supreme Court is still under scrutiny from the media. Look at how they treated Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett. Whereas with the bureaucracy, the media largely defends them with, trust the experts, trust the experts, trust the experts, even if they lie to you, and they are willing to lie to you. Fauci lied about, he said, masks do not work, do not put on masks. They actually make it worse. Actually, I was lying to you so that the medical professionals could get their masks before everyone else. It's like, okay, well then you fucking lie to me. There is no element of social trust that exists between the people and the unelected bureaucracy, and and to any degree that it does exist, it's entirely manufactured by this kind of thoughtless maxim of trust the experts. So it's just really obnoxious.
Doesn't Fauci change his opinion as often as Kim Kardashian changes clothes?
Oh yeah, Steven Crowder had a very good way of putting this. He said, what was the quote? So about Fauci, Crowder said, Fauci's essentially playing Simon Says with America. Because that is what it feels like.
That's a great way of describing it.
Yeah.
I do know that he's held every position on masks since the start of the pandemic.
Yes.
And
Well, at least that,
one of the things I've always
at
found
least that does
amusing
mean
is
that you get the opportunity to say that you are following Fauci's rules, and then just pick and choose
Yes.
whichever one you like.
Oh.
Yeah, you have the choice.
Yep, just like
yeah.
the World Health Organization.
Yeah, and just that comment from Biden. The rule now is simple. Get vaccinated or wear a mask until you do. Well, it's kind of like, okay, well, wait, so does that mean... So I actually got vaccinated and I consulted with my mom, who's a nurse. My mom's a nurse, folks. Okay, gang. But, I
what a
consulted with my
hero!
mom.
What a hero!
Yeah, so I consulted with my mom, who's a nurse, before doing so, and, I kind of trusted her judgment on that one.
Yeah.
Got the jab, held a magnet over my arm, so, no reaction to any microchips or whatever. But,
Are you sure?
Like, at this point, the CDC has been like, if you're outdoors and you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. And apparently the other day they said that now if you're indoors, you don't have to wear a mask if you're vaccinated. So I'm just looking forward to be able to tell all of the Karens who flip out on me if I don't wear a mask inside. Well, this is the official CDC guideline. Trust the experts, Karen.
Yeah, that's what the
Just say, I'm
president
vaccinated.
says.
Just say, I'm vaccinated. And just carry on.
Yeah. I do really hate the whole I don't know, two classes of citizenship now that come from, the vaccinations. I'm very happy if they ease mask restrictions though. Whatever. I'm happy for whatever I can get. I really don't want the vaccine passports though. That would just set a very bad precedent for that kind of shit in general.
So it'd be a
I reckon
very
they're
bad
gonna push them,
president from
though.
a bad president.
Correct. But the problem is it's not just going to be America. It's going to be like Europe and Australia. We're all going to suffer under this. And it really feels like it's an excuse in order to try and manipulate the population so that we can what's a good way of putting it? That we'll be more amenable to similar restrictions in the future.
Oh yeah, it's this social planning nonsense.
Well, they're not even subtle about it. Yes, the other day, Jezza, I looked up the Queensland government health statistics and YouTube. This is from the government, so it's true. You can't do anything about it. Yes, Jezza, do you know how many people died from COVID in Queensland between March 2020 and yesterday?
Or maybe 50, 60? Is it more than that?
No, try 7.
Oh, 7. You see, I was giving them the benefit of the doubt that maybe there was a tiny, tiny portion rather than a tiny, 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 tiny portion of the population that actually died.
Yeah. And would you like to guess?
Australia, it's insane how restrictive we've been in Australia, considering how few deaths that we've had and how few
would you like to
sick people
take a guess how many cases from any source we've had in Queensland since March 2020? Go on, take a wild crack.
Oh, okay.
100.
You've had 7 deaths.
If we're to believe your government.
150 odd. Yeah, that's where I was going to go. If you've had 7 deaths. About 150 would be about the right number of cases.
Try about
how many?
Try about, I think it was 1,600. Was it 1,600, Trim? I'm trying to get it up on the website, but
yes, I do believe it was around that. And to be honest, the way the Australian government is reacting, it makes it seem like it's not just 1,600, it's fucking 1,600,000, a million.
Yeah.
More COVID deaths than Australia. How vibrant.
I know, it's bizarre. Because one of the things I was listening to the other day was someone was talking about the statistics of what's happening over in India. Was it India? Yeah, India. And their death rate and infection rate is just in line with their population. So it's 1.7% or something is the mortality rate.
Yeah, and they got
It's
that
like-
river thing they all bait at as well. The
Yeah.
Ganges?
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
For Queensland, the mortality rate is something like 0.0044. Yet, that is the reason to shut down the entire Greater Brisbane area that contains over 2.5 million people over, what was it, one case in the community?
One suspected
Sounds
case, wasn't it? Did he actually have COVID? Because I remember what happened with Perth. So Perth recently had the shutdown. My parents were over there at the time and all the rest of it. And what it was is that a guy had come into Perth, had tested negative in Perth, tested negative before he came into Australia, was quarantined for 2 weeks, tested negative again, went to Victoria, had a positive test in Victoria, which is possible because of the fact that the way that the testing works, you get false positives, and then was found to not be positive. So he went negative, 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 positive, negative.
Yep, and they locked down all of Perth over that, didn't they?
Yes, they did. They shut down Western Australia over one
Sounds-
person who didn't actually have COVID.
Sounds absolutely logical, guys. Just completely
Yeah.
logical.
Yeah.
Oh,
What are you
it's totally
talking
logical.
about? This
Well-
isn't overreacting.
Well, it's also kind
No,
of
not at all.
interesting that I've been able to predict like a lot of the left's reactions to COVID in general, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So I guess, back in before the 2020 election, back when Trump was still president, all of the
Mhm.
media outlets, Trump was like, we're going to have a vaccine soon. It's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. All of the media outlets were like, no, do not trust that vaccine. It will not have gone through the proper testing. He's rushing this out. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be awful. It's going to make you sick. And as I'm like looking at that media coverage of the upcoming vaccine, I'm like, as soon as like the election is over, they're going to flip their tune on it completely and then like insult and degrade and belittle people for saying the exact same stuff that they themselves were saying before, before Biden took office. And the other thing I predicted was, the left seems to have this kind of argumentation where it's like, as long as these measures save even one life, they are worth it, no matter what the cost is. And so I'm hearing them say that about stuff like masking and stuff. And I'm just kind of like, okay, where's the line of logic that is going to keep them from making us do this during flu season? Then the other day, Fauci comes out and he's like, wearing masks during the flu might be a thing now. I'm like, called it. It's just frustrating.
That's right. See,
That'll be
I
funny.
don't have a problem with someone voluntarily wearing a mask while they are sick with an infectious disease that is transmitted through sneezing. No worries at all. But why do people who aren't sick have to wear a mask? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah,
Mask wearing should be for the ill. If you're ill, you should be wearing a mask so that you don't spread your disease.
The
Fine,
mask is
no
meant
worries.
to keep it. The mask isn't meant to keep the virus out. It's meant to keep the virus in if you have it.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Exactly
Yeah.
right.
Here's a
It's
question
absolutely
from
retarded. Everyone has to wear the fucking mask.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Here's a question from the chat for us.
Mhm.
From Harrison. Do you think it's possible that Australia's aggressive lockdown policy has led to them not having any serious outbreaks? Well, sure, it's possible, but we weren't likely to have them anyway. Everyone was social distancing, wearing masks, and it sure as hell wasn't worth it.
And
I
Australia's
have
kind of
an interesting thought about that. Oh, sorry a second. Just give me 2 seconds. I have an interesting thought around that. I think our initial hard lockdown that we went into was valid. It was every subsequent lockdown that we entered into that was invalid. The initial one, when we didn't know any better, because we didn't have any data, because China was hiding all of their own data about things. Once we were out of that period and we had the information that was coming out of, what was the country? Oh, I've just had a mental blank. So frustrating. The Chinese
Taiwan?
government that's not in China. Taiwan. When Taiwan released all the data about the disease that they had, at that point, we should have realized it was an infectious disease that is transmitted in a similar way to the flu. Once we knew that, bam, we knew what the response should be. If you're sick, do the same thing as you do when you have the flu. Stay home, don't go to your workplace, don't go to your school, don't transmit it to other people. No worries.
I'd also be interested to know the relative age of the people in Australia. Does it have a relatively younger population?
No, we've actually got what they call an aging population. Very much an aging population.
We're full of boomers.
So,
we've got a large portion. The largest portion of the population is the boomers.
So
And
the
there's-
population is aging because feminism makes it hard to hook up, which we will get to later.
Well, it's in Australia. It's not so much feminism that's fault. It's the economy, because millennials and younger aren't having kids because they can't bloody well afford anything more than a one-bedroom apartment with 3 fucking people.
Yeah, and there's some interesting things around that as well. There's a lot of stuff with it. There's a lot of foreign investment. Foreign investment is allowed within Australia in our residential markets, which has driven up the price of property in the major cities, because especially those which were affected by mining boom, which happened in the 2000s. So that's a big portion of that.
Yeah, and
it's
the rental
very expensive to buy into the housing market.
And the rental market is disgusting as well. I've heard various sources say that something like you should only spend 30% of your income on housing costs. Well, if you were to live in, say, the Queensland state capital, Brisbane, your fortnightly rent would come to 80%, roughly 70 to 80% of your welfare payment if you were unlucky enough to be on welfare.
Yeah.
Insane.
Correct. Yes. And it can be much higher as well. It is definitely, you can definitely be paying between 45 and 55% of your income on your housing here in Australia.
And if you're on minimum wage, you're almost certainly paying 45 to 50% of your income, which leaves no money for luxuries like, driving, holidays, kids.
Yeah. Like a single, I think that's sort of a single person average weekly income is somewhere around $650, I think, a week, and I think the average cost of housing is about $360. It's pretty expensive.
Yeah, and it's phenomenally expensive, and especially when you get, and I'm going to rant for a bit on the welfare system and how fucked it is.
Go for it.
$610 a fortnight is the welfare you get if you're a single, unemployed person with no kids. Right, so what can you do with that $610 a fucking fortnight? Well, $400 a fortnight, bang, rent. Right, so what do you do with the other $200? Phone bill, internet, which you have to have because you can't go without the internet because you've got it. The government forces you to look for work because you can't not be doing your part. And so then you've got water, electricity, luxuries like food. God help you if you want to do something more than live off rice and friggin' water.
So essentially, Australia is like kind of the opposite extreme to what's going on in America, is what you're saying. Where
it's almost exactly
where
the same.
Biden's like paying people. Well, Biden's paying people more than the minimum wage in some places to stay home and not.
Yeah,
work.
it sounds like he's paying him something like 110, 100%, 20% of the minimum wage. In Australia, it's 40%. Now, I'm not sure what the exact right number is, but it's probably about halfway between those two.
Interestingly enough, during the I hate the word pandemic. So last year, so in 2020, I've got a mate who was on unemployment benefits during 2020, and he was receiving, I don't know, like a huge amount of extra cash while
$550 a fortnight extra from March 2020 until they started reducing it. So they essentially doubled it.
Yeah, and it was interesting talking to him. So this mate of mine who was on unemployment at the time, he's a communist. absolutely a communist. Like, he'll say that he's a communist without any problems, and he's like, the thing which is funny about it is he's a communist who is a proper communist in the sense that he is an authoritarian leftist, and he will agree with that. He fully endorses the entire concept of authoritarian leftism, and I don't have a problem with that because he's honest. He's honest about it.
Yeah,
he
I can
says
actually
what it is.
respect that. I
Well,
can actually
yeah.
respect that.
Yeah, at least
Yeah.
he's like being fair and giving a red flag. I mean, because that is like kind of that is a problem I have with a lot of this COVID policy stuff, where it's like I would be more amenable to it if the left were actually willing to state any kind of limiting principle that would like prevent them from taking things much further than, you know, what they're ostensibly arguing for initially. It's like with the whole like masking thing, they don't give a limiting principle to that. There is no limiting principle that they have stated that would keep them from making us do it during flu season. Like it's kind of ridiculous. Like, you know, I want them to state the limiting principle, or like something like COVID vaccine passports. I wouldn't be necessarily opposed to that if they were like, oh, once the pandemic is over, we're done with that kind of thing, like at all. But I know that because they have no limiting principle, you know, I'd be very worried about that leading into some kind of like weird Chinese style social credit system, because they are never able to put any kind of limiting principle on the things they're arguing for. At least with the person that you're describing, he's willing to admit like that, no, I'm going to take this to the furthest extent possible. But, you know, the people who have no limiting principle, and then when you point out where their line of logic could lead, they're like, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. That's obviously not going to happen. That's just some fringe nonsense. And then 5 years later, the fringe nonsense becomes part of the mainstream conversation.
Yeah, well, what I think it is that the lying left, the progressives, argue from like compassion. They want ultimate compassion. They want everyone to be safe and well, which of course we know is a fallacy. You cannot have a society where everyone is safe and well. For one thing, individuals who are autonomous and have the ability to look into their own lives and make decisions about it are not going to choose the safest path forward, because they're going to look at improving their situations, which is going to require risk. Whereas my mate who's a communist, he looks at it and goes, you do not have, well, sorry, I'll change that. He looks at it from the Marxist view, which is that the individual is not capable of making rational decisions, and therefore the state needs to make those decisions for you, and you then need to lump it. Okay, I can understand.
Clearly never met a politician.
Well, that's right. He's a lifelong Labor voter here in Australia, and Labor fully endorses that viewpoint as far as I'm concerned.
Could be worse. He could be a filthy Liberal voter.
Well, I'm going to say something controversial.
I'm going to.
I'm going to say something.
I'm a small level liberal.
So I do think we should be like somewhat charitable towards the average lefty. I don't think the average lefty is lying and pretending that they're arguing for less than they are. Like they're not like Klaus Schwab, who's like, oh, the Great Reset, where it's like obvious. Yeah, it's not going to stop there, is it? And he knows it's not going to stop there. But I think with the average lefty, it's more so that they don't have a limiting principle, and they don't realize that. So if you ask them right now if they believed insert wherever what they're arguing leads to 5 years from now, they'd be like, oh, no, obviously I don't support that. And they'd be telling the truth. But then 5 years from now, they're going to find themselves worked into that position by a logical progression of things. So I don't think those kinds of people are being dishonest. I just don't think they're aware enough where the line of logic they're going down will lead.
Yeah, well, what I think is they're victims of the Overton window. Sorry, go Trim, go.
Well, it's exactly what you said, though. They are also the victims of their own compassion.
Yeah.
It's just they want everything to be good, everyone to be good, but the problem is we're all separate individuals, and we're all gonna meet a different fate, and the worldview they have doesn't coincide with that.
Yeah. Because I sort of look at it and I go, the Overton window has moved so far that the sort of the leftists who were the ones who were who were looking for the welfare state leftists, I guess is a nice way of describing them, is the welfare state leftists, have now found themselves looking over at the progressive leftists who have hurtled off of the cliff and are now so far away that the welfare state leftists are looking at them and going, what the hell happened to them? And looking over at those of us who are more centre right and right leaning and going, why am I standing next to you guys all of a sudden? How did this happen? Because they don't really agree with conservative values, but they're now, because of the Overton window, they're right next to us, you know, because the progressives are just so far away from us that how are we meant to even communicate with them?
So it is true, to respond to a point in the chat, the ideological shifting effect does exist on both sides, but this is something that Jordan Peterson has talked about. There is more of a boundary to that on the right. There is like a limiting principle, and the way Jordan Peterson puts it is, the moment you start talking about racial superiority or anything of that sort, then you've definitely gone over the line, and you will get punished for that, generally speaking. There's not the same hard line on the left wing of the spectrum that prevents things from going to communism. And to some extent, while it is true that the right can shift, can also have that risk, I don't think it's something that is as present at the moment because of the dominance of the left-wing cathedral over society. I think a lot of, because there is like a lot where the right does shift and compromise to the left. I mean, you know, you get a lot of people talking about how radical Trump is, but despite being a Republican, he is the first president to agree with gay marriage when he got into office, for example. And you also have kind of things where in my home state of Texas, which has like an entirely red legislature, you know, banning pumping kids up with cross-sex hormones, is having difficulty passing through my state legislature because some Republicans are squeamish about that. Like, oh, is that like a bad thing? Like, that is something that they have been moved on, where it's like, yeah, you're a conservative, you're in favor of pumping kids up with cross-sex hormones. And you know, other stuff in the UK, like where the Conservative Party in the UK, though they've been kind of standing more up for their principles recently, have been just kind of shifting to the left and low-key conceding to almost every social position that the left-wing party there has put out. I definitely do think that radicalization on the right wing is something that does need to be considered, that does need to be worried about, and we definitely need to put boundaries so that the same thing on the right doesn't happen on the left. But I don't think that is as much of a thing at the moment because of the circumstances. If the right wing were to have a comparable level of power that the modern left wing has in like social institutions, I think the ideological shifting of the right would be a lot more dangerous. But I'm not really sure how much of that is ideological shifting and how much of that is, I don't know, conceding on certain points that otherwise wouldn't be conceded on for the case of real politicking.
Yeah, because I sort of look at it and I go, conservatives, because I view myself fundamentally as a conservative. I say I'm a liberal for European viewpoint. I'm probably a liberal, and American viewpoint, I'd be right wing, and in Australia, I'd view myself as a conservative. If that makes sense.
And in
this is
Britain,
part
you
of
would
our
be,
issue.
I'm a conservative.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Correct.
in America, liberalism is the conservative position. Funny enough.
Strangely enough. Just to jump in,
this is,
Bundle of Sticks
go for
has a comment for us on the lovely times that people in welfare are having. They can't get mortgages, even if they technically can afford it, because in Australia, Of course, you have a minimum income guaranteed by the state, but even if you've got
Yep.
that, you can't get a mortgage, so you can never get out of the renting trap, so you're just straight up screwed in every direction.
Wow.
Yes, sort
Well,
of.
actually, there's one thing I want to point out. Another point of pride for Norway, really. There's starting to be this program where people who can't afford like you have to have like 15 or 20%, in order to make for a loan to buy a new house.
Yep, we're the same.
Yeah.
Yes. There is a system coming up very soon where you actually can borrow the money without having that original sum.
Yeah, see, that's interesting. I used to be a loan officer here in South Australia, and that was during the period when I could have done the same thing. I could have loaned money to people who didn't have a deposit and that sort of thing. I never did it, but I had the possibility of doing so. And then shortly after I stopped being a loans person, was when the GFC happened because of all of the ridiculous loans that were being handed out to people. And I was pleased that I never put anyone in a position personally where they were going to be screwed because of the changes of their fortunes with regards to the value of their properties. Talking about low income people, like people who are unemployment, being able to get loans, I know that South Australia, for example, there is a specific loan type which is aimed at low income earners in order to purchase homes. The problem is the value of homes has grown to the point where they're not able to make use of that effectively anymore, and that's one of the issues. I think that's a bigger issue than not being able to get the money in the first place. The issue is that the average price of homes has moved out of the range where even a low income earner can, even if they could afford it, technically speaking, afford the loan repayments. The value of the homes has moved outside of the range where they can then be given a loan, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I explained it very well. I'm a lot of beers in, so sorry about that.
I think I got the gist of it at least. Though the one of the criterias for getting that loan though without a deposit is that you
Yep.
have to have a job at least, so have to have an assured income, so you're able to pay at least the minimum required amount.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in the chat, there is an interesting point about fomite transmission not really being that much of a thing, because I do remember that was something that we panicked about in the US a lot more at first. I remember when I was like at work, we would have to like wipe down every kind of surface whenever we changed our physical positions.
Oh, yep.
When
Those were joy.
Yeah, and I also remember there being kind of like headlines about how COVID's going to stay online or stay on cardboard for like a week or something, and you have to be like really afraid of boxes that get delivered to your house. So it is a definite white pill. I think that fomite transmission is not a particularly common thing, because that is something we were a lot more worried about at first. And I do think Kekistani makes an interesting point about trusting the CDC. Now, I got vaccinated. Again, my mom's a nurse, gang. So I don't think she's trying to sell me anything. So I trust her judgment when it comes to the vaccine. And I didn't get sick from it. I haven't suffered any side effects. But it is the kind of thing where if the CDC says that the vaccine is safe, I can understand why some people would have a more difficult time trusting that when Fauci lied about the masks for the sake of social engineering. I could very easily see it being the case that if something like the vaccine had some like health risks that would make it a net negative for somebody in their early 20s, I don't think the CDC would communicate that. I think they would want people to get vaccinated so that the old people won't get COVID and die. But I don't think they would communicate honestly what the risks of that are to younger people if they thought that doing so would keep them from getting vaccinated. Again, I'm not saying don't trust the vaccine. I trusted the vaccine. I took the vaccine. I'm very happy to have taken the vaccine, but I can understand why these kind of social planning institutions that have demonstrated a willingness to lie in order to achieve a desired outcome, why somebody would be skeptical towards trusting their judgment, which is why I think that Fauci lying about masks at the beginning was one of the worst things he could have possibly done, because it puts every statement made since then in question. Like, you know, a person being advised to take the vaccine can trust that the CDC is arguing for what is the best thing to slow the spread, but can they trust that the CDC is arguing for what is best for them individually? And if they can't trust that, then acting in their own self-interest, why would they risk it? I think it is the lack of social trust that has been, I think, eroded in a lot of these institutions. That is a very real problem to the general public having an understanding of the scientific consensus. Well, that is actually a good point. The CDC is pretty hawkish about being concerned about blame reduction. They stopped the Johnson & Johnson vaccine for six people with blood clots out of 6.9 million who took the vaccine, which is a much lower risk of blood clots than for the birth control pill. So they just do a lot of stuff that erodes kind of trust in what they're saying or trust in the vaccine, where, there are two different kinds of errors that are made, obviously.
I mean, my problem with the vaccine is that I just by standard don't trust the vaccine. It at least hasn't been, made for at least 3 years, Just
you want to see that it's got a track record. I sort of look at it in a similar way as well. I sort of look at it like it's a flu vaccine, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it is a flu vaccine. It's a targeted flu vaccine as opposed to a generalized flu vaccine, is how I sort of look at it.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I'm sort of curious as once we have the vaccine rollout effectively, how likely are we going to see the flu deaths start getting reported again?
Yeah, I do find it interesting that George Floyd was the only one with COVID who died, who apparently did not die from COVID. Like, if you have COVID and you get run over by a car, you're counted on the COVID death stats, right? But George Floyd had COVID, and we all know it was nothing but Chauvin's knee that killed him.
He didn't die of COVID. He didn't die of COVID, and nor did he die of Chauvin. He died with COVID and with Chauvin.
Yes. He died. He died from all of the above.
Yeah, I think that it would be very interesting if, like, these kinds of statistics would do, like, kind of a kill-death ratio kind of thing, like on video games, where it's like you have your kills and then you have your assists. If we could, like, count COVID's kills and COVID's assists, I think that would be an interesting way of doing it.
Oh, man. COVID would have so many kill assists right now. But then drunk driving, holy crap.
Let's not talk about drunk driving. That kills a lot of people.
I think it's the biggest killer of just about any cause in Australia, if not the second.
Yeah,
so basically, I'm shaming every single idiot who drives drunk. Don't do it, and if you do it, screw you. Stop doing it.
And if you get blackout drunk, stay away from driveways.
Especially if your best friend is driving.
Yeah. That's a story for another time.
I'm very safe. When I'm drinking, I sit down and I can talk, but eventually I just fall asleep.
That's nice.
So if you start hearing me snore, that's what's happened.
Okay. Is that when I should start screaming out randomly to get you awake, or, is that...
No, that won't happen anytime soon. I'm all good. I'm all good. It was a... Yes, and who was it? I just saw a thing pop up on our chat thing. Yeah, I would love to do an Alex Jones was right section. That'd be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he was right. Well, he understated it. They weren't turning the frogs gay, they were turning the frogs trans. And, as the second plague of Egypt and a proud Sultan of Shadilay, I am upset with what they are doing to my fellow brothers and sisters.
It's just a shame what they're doing to the frogs.
Yeah.
Well, thankfully,
frogs.
their generals are speaking out about it.
Also, Kyrgyzstani driving drunk is exciting, though? No, it's not. Shame on you.
Yes, shame on you. And I can say shame on you as someone who has lost their license at once upon a time, many, many years ago.
We need Sargon's bread-eating shame bell.
Oh, I have a shame. Oh no, I'm in the wrong place.
No. Where
am I
you
at
can
the other
say,
place?
"Where's the harm?" But no, where is the where's the virtue?
Exactly.
Where's the virtue?
Oh, all these shit heels, like, where's the harm? Where's the harm? No, where is the virtue? Have you listened to me talking about thick concepts?
The thick concept of not driving drunk.
Although I will say, eating bread is a thick concept in Christianity. So, yeah, walk with Jesus. He'll protect you from keto Sharia.
Yes, he will.
I support the Callum faith and its union with Christianity.
I do have to say, I do sort of look at the whole keto Sharia quite. I quite agree with it, but no, I'm not going to stop breaking bread. It's a religious belief.
We can.
That's all right.
There we go. Holy
Jesus,
that
that
good
was
enough?
loud.
that was perfect.
Are you ready? Shame.
Shame! Shame! Alright, well, my friend Harrison has informed me that he has to leave the podcast, so goodbye, Harrison.
Bye, Harrison.
Bye, Harrison.
That's all right. I don't even know what time it is. Oh, okay.
It's
Not too
almost.
bad.
Yeah.
So to
1 o'clock for you, mate. It's 1 o'clock for you.
Yeah.
I'm here.
So to wrap up the Joe Biden segment, before we get on to the next one, essentially, money printer go burr, inflate the currency, steal the wealth that is inherent to the dollars people currently have, fuck the economy, pay people to not work, and be surprised when the economy is not doing as well as it should be. Cancel the oil pipeline for environmental reasons, but we're going to still be using the same amount of oil. We're just buying from fucking Saudi Arabia, so that's great. Trump was an evil man for weakening democracy or something, but the Democrats are going to vote to exacerbate the same issues that caused people's skepticism towards the 2020 election. So they're not doing any better. They're making the situation worse to whatever extent. Trump is a bad man for doing that. They're just going to make the issue worse and the polarization worse. And yeah, and, Joe Biden can just do all this like radical shit and get away with it by going, oh, well, it's you, the United States of America. We, the people, is the government. And so, yeah, Joe Biden is awful, and I hate living under him as my president. But I will say he is my president. I'm not going to go full leftist and be like, not my president, not my president. No, he is. That is the reality of the situation. It's terrible, but facts don't care about my feelings.
Yes, they do.
Well, depends on whose feelings and what kind of feelings.
That's right.
Trim,
That's
maybe
right.
be careful what channel you're in, just for the record.
Yeah, I just realized was in general and not there.
Okay,
I'm
so
confused sometimes. Boomer.
leftist mob rule in the UK.
Yes.
No bad leftists. But clearly they're taking their lead from America, where the violent left has proven that terrorism works.
I
Sure. I
mean,
mean,
that was
didn't
already
Antifa and
established in
BLM
South
prove
Park.
that last year?
Indeed. So,
Oh no, that's been established for a while with Muhammad getting censored in South Park.
Very true.
Like, unironically, in that episode, their last speech is entirely bleeped out, the I learned something today speech, and the entirety of that speech, uncensored, is what we've learned today is that terrorism works. If you don't want to be made fun of, you just have to threaten people with guns and bombs. And then Comedy Central censors that speech because they're afraid of Islamic terrorism. So it's like they censored the speech and proved the speech right. It's this pinnacle of comedicness. It's the narrative and objective world have met, as Jordan Peterson would say.
I love the South Park guys. Matt and Trey Parker, right?
Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought
just
we
to
were brothers.
respond to Kekistani in chat, where he says the stream seems to be a bunch of apologists for the election. Just for the record, YouTube's editorial policies determine what we can say on that matter. Just so what we can say does not reflect our true opinions.
I will say that
You first.
Okay, sorry, I'll just quickly go and I'll let you go next, Trim. I have already recommended that you go and have a look at Bahizi with regards to my opinions on the selection.
And,
Go, Trim.
To me, two things. One, I hold a very similar opinion as Carl Benjamin. And also, the eye of Susan is upon us. Be very afraid.
Mm-hmm.
There is no light in the void, only death.
And Susan.
Yes, and like Capstatius says in the chat, what's going on in England does seem to have a lot of American influence. It's just like that Islamo-leftism that Macron's talking about. That's exactly what's causing this problem in the UK. The same mess of university-educated children just going all across the globe, spreading their fantasies, their utopian ideals.
I think it was very well described. Sorry, go for it.
As an American, I just want to apologize for that, but it does annoy me a little bit when Macron blames America for that. When it's like, oh, it was kind of French intellectuals that infected the American universities to begin with. So at least when it comes to France, we're just returning to them the cancer that they sent us. But that's fine if Macron wants to help fight Islamo-leftism now, he's more than welcome to join the fight.
It's a bit late, but we'll take any help we can get.
That's right. But second, do you know what the problem is? America took it and did it better.
Yeah.
You always have to do the whole thing. Oh, I'm going to take that and I'm going to make it bigger and better and worse maybe, but I'm going to make it bigger. Yeehaw.
Yes, we're going to make it huge. It's going to be great.
Huge.
Huge.
I love that line. I just love the huge. It's brilliant.
Trump is a gift that keeps on giving.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
So there's one thing I like about Trump losing the election. One thing two things. One is the incredible amount of Biden's remorse or buyer's remorse. And of course, all the goddamn journalists that lost their jobs.
Oh, it's glorious.
It's so quiet on that front right now, and it is beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Was it CNN lost 2/3 of their viewers or something?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Oh, thank God.
And all those ridiculous online newspapers, which weren't really any source of news, laying off 2/3 to 3/4 of their staff.
Yep. Well, that's what happens when your definition of journalism is, oh, the president said a thing. Screenshot. Trump bad. Orange man did thing.
Yep.
Good
old
really
Ryan Long.
His tabloid... Oh, sorry, you first.
Go, Trim.
I was just going to say that you really suck when you make tabloids look like better news than you.
Actually, there was like UK tabloids which had actual news in them as opposed to what they used to do. It was so weird.
Oh man, it was.
And the other thing
Trump
which
years was
has
weird.
happened, yeah, I know it's very very weird. The other thing which I've quite enjoyed is the fact that Sky News Australia has become very well known all across the globe. It's quite bizarre.
It is, as the Australians say, biased.
Beist. It's Beist and Red Pilled, mate.
I love that we have two fucking Aussies here.
That's so mean. So mean.
What?
The thing which is hilarious though is because we've got a South Australian and a Queenslander, right? We've got the two polar extremes of the Australian accent in the chat.
And then you just have my butchering of it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would apologize, but hey, we're from different countries, everyone, and I'm pretty sure if I say a Norwegian word, you're all gonna butcher it too.
Oh, absolutely. But give it a go. I'm more than happy to like make a fool of myself.
This is one I heard in the city, and every single English speaker that tries to repeat what I say, they can't do it. So this is a challenge to you. Hurtigruten.
Hurtigruten.
There we go. Almost. How about you, Beth?
Hurtigruten.
Hey, do you think Jane Foster, the mighty Thor, would be capable of doing it?
No, he's not Thor. Screw you.
Jane Foster isn't a he. You gotta respect her pronouns, man.
Fuck off.
Do you know what?
Sorry.
I really don't care about people's pronouns. It doesn't bother me at all. As long as I don't have to pretend that they are not the sex that they are.
I don't care about pronouns as long as the pronoun itself is a real word.
That too.
Yeah, there we go.
That's an excellent
Like-
starting point.
I'm not gonna, if Blair White shows up, I'm not gonna be like, but I'm not gonna say Zer, zippity bop, flippity flimmity. I'm not.
No, I can't do that either.
I'm not gonna do my best Bill Cosby voice impression, not
I
general.
was about to say,
impression.
thank you, Trim. Thank you for clarifying that one.
I mean, I might be stupid, but gee, even I have certain standards.
Standards.
Zip zap zippity zoom zoom bam.
So
Exactly.
speaking
Actually,
of
we've gone totally off topic. Like, what were we meant to be talking about this section again?
Yeah, we're talking about
how England's gone to hell and it's all the fault of Islamolestism.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of, Dankula had something interesting to say. The whistleblower who went public with information regarding S&P corruption within the Salmon Shrine has just been sentenced to 8 months in prison for it. God help the Scots.
So the
Sorry,
S&P
they're in
has
jail?
Finally...
Well,
Surprisingly,
yes, for speaking out against it.
Turns out that the S&P has finally taken the last step in taking the S, turn it from Scottish to socialist.
Yeah.
Now you take the N in front of the socialist, and there you go.
Yes, the
Well,
socialist SNP. Yes, Socialist Nationalist Party. What does that sound like? Yeah, National Socialist Party. No, I remember something like that from somewhere.
30s and 40s.
It's
Wait.
also
Really hot tonight.
Wait.
I just want to point out that we started streaming 69 minutes ago.
Nice.
Nice.
But yeah, Count Dankula said something very interesting about the Scottish National Party, which is that they don't actually want independence because they want to be back in the European Union. The way he says it, they just want to change who's holding the leash.
Oppress me harder, Ursula. That's pretty much them.
Yeah, that's
or-
a Scottish
no, no.
attitude.
You know,
Oppress me harder, Ursula. Or how
oh, that was beautiful. But what it is the Scots don't ever want to not have someone feeding them.
I have a
interesting way of
Scottish
looking at
friend,
it.
so I'm just gonna be a little bit careful in how much I shit on the Scots.
Shit on them. Shit on them. I'm of
He-
Irish extraction. We should shit
he
on them.
does- Yeah, but he lives not too far away from me, so you know I can be a bit careful. So
Trim, do you have
private
whiskey in
Scots
your home?
fella. Actually, yes.
Oh, you're fine then.
Oh, it's so stereotypical, but it's true. I gave him
I
whiskey for his
know.
birthday. I gave him whiskey for his birthday. He was fucking happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah, I
man.
mean, Count Dankula is right. He's like, you can have 7 officers kicking down your door over some tweets, but literally sneak into a country illegally and just get let go. Yeah, that's true. Like,
essentially.
I mean, that is kind of, well, it's the same thing with the whole, oh, you need a vaccine passport to travel, but if you cross the border illegally, yeah, could you stay here?
I'm hearing rumors that pugs are about to become an illegal species in Germany for some in Scotland for some reason. I mean,
No
I
idea
thought
why.
Buddha and SFP would get really well along. I mean, they have similar politics.
They do. You're very correct. Though I do feel sorry for pugs. Have you seen pug skulls?
Yes.
They look
All those
they look
poor
like alien
abominations.
skulls. Oh no, not
Are you-
alien skulls, predator skulls.
I'm gonna regret looking this up.
Oh, you need to look it up. They are horrifying.
Oh,
Horrifying.
dear God. Thank you for the nightmares.
Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, shit like that. It's reasons like that I draw faces like I do.
Yeah. Anyone in the chat, if you are a masochist, feel free to look it up. If not,
Oh,
spare your eyes.
That's
it
right.
is such a beautiful abomination.
How could something so cute have something so hideous underneath it?
I mean, you can just hear the way they breathe.
Yeah, I know that snuffly snort noise that they make. It's just wrong. Actually, that's a quite good analogy for what's happening in the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, right down to the pug asking, "Where are my testicles, Summer? They were removed. Where are they?"
Oh
Wait,
my
wasn't that
gosh.
a? No, wasn't that a Shih Tzu?
Yeah, but I mean, still they get neutered as well, so why not?
Yeah, but the pugs kind of deserve it, you know. Have you seen them? You know. There's one thing for someone as Christ pill as you. Let's just say that they are the perfect example of why humanity should not play God.
Yeah, it's true.
We just had the skull appear in our Discord. Gross.
Oh man,
Oh,
is
man,
anyone
it's just
gonna
your
check
pride.
it for the 3 dots? No, we're not in the phrenology here. Disavow YouTube.
We're just
Oh.
huge fans of Django Unchained. Really good movie. Seriously.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
a really good movie.
I actually watched it for the first time with my best friend a couple weeks ago.
Let me guess,
It's
you were
some
high.
Good movie.
No, actually no.
Huh, okay.
I was drunk though.
Nice.
That's fair enough.
I watched Age of Extinction, that abominable Transformers movie, high, and it was cool because every time something exploded, it exploded inside a bubble, and then the bubble exploded. Like twice the explosions. I don't even want to talk about how the transformations look like. It was an experience. Let's just say that.
Yeah, humans, they do. Okay, never mind. That's gonna be way too off topic.
That's right. Well, you should try and stay on topic. It's hard to stay on topic though when it comes to the UK because I'm not as knowledgeable about the
that's
stuff
true
that's
as
happening
well.
inside the UK, which I'm not informed of by the Lotus Eaters anyway. Because part of the reason why I'm a subscriber is because I want to keep up with what's going on in the UK, and they're a very good source of it.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because there's a lot of liars in the UK. There's a lot of liars.
Oh, that is for sure. I mean,
Yep, we
there's
call
so
them the
many bad
BBC.
faith actors.
Yeah, we do.
I don't know about
I
you,
don't
Jazza, but these
understand
days I've been
the
getting
level.
much the same opinion of the ABC as the BBC.
Oh, I've had that opinion for a long time now. Yeah, the
ABC. Weren't they
Oh,
the ones
Australian
who
Broad-
published? Yeah, weren't they the ones who made that really cringe, like, kind of cartoon a few years ago, where it was like those like SJW women like rapping about like the Privilege River or something?
Don't remind me. Don't
Oh,
remind
God,
me.
I think I was lucky enough to
God.
avoid seeing that one.
Oh,
My
I didn't watch the whole
gosh.
thing, but still, the echoes in my mind.
Does it
Yeah, that's-
echo as badly as Dr.
No.
Fauci?
Yes, actually. No, wait. I actually prefer that in front of that shit. You know, you've been singing that thing so goddamn much that I've actually started to develop an resistance to it.
Yeah,
Now, just
He's
so
saying-
you're aware, I just double checked. That video was deleted after community backlash against it, so that's a good thing.
awesome. That's great.
Yes, the one
the
good
community,
thing.
the community has standards.
The one good thing
Has
about
standards.
Australia is it seems that a lot of the woke rubbish is not being tolerated. Like the two schools where some genius thought it'd be a good idea to abuse the boys. Both
Yes.
times
Oh,
that
I
happened,
just
and
really
yes,
did.
it happened a second time. Both times it happened,
Yeah.
the community just ripped the schools to shreds.
Yeah.
It should be.
And
That is
also,
beautiful.
and I know as well that in unlike in a lot of places, we don't seem to have. We may be full of feminist midwives, but they are not woke. So they do not agree with the whole concept of chest feeding and birthing parent and all of that
Uh-huh.
other rubbish. They're
Okay.
very against it. Thank
Ugh.
goodness.
I mean, it's got to be
Though they
some
are
positive.
hyper-feminist.
There's got to be some bonuses to at least living in a country that's trying to kill you every goddamn second of the line.
Look,
Word.
it's not every day. We do get a few days off.
Real.
Well, I think that's because some of the turf perspective is founded in reality. Some of it.
Yes.
Some of it is founded in
Well,
reality.
the TE part of turf is founded in reality, as it should be.
Right.
I sort of look at them and it's the fact that they agree that women are important and valuable. That's,
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
that's true.
you know,
So, speaking of
Yeah,
feminists, to move things on a
Oh,
little,
here we go.
speaking of feminism,
yeah, we probably should.
why are feminists finding it hard to date, guys?
Could it be that
because
they
there's not
are
very many of them.
unlikable?
Because they're
Yeah, that one.
feminists.
Is it because they hate men?
Spoon.
Who
Sorry.
has risen from silence?
Oh,
I wouldn't say they
here-
hate
here's
men.
my
I think
favourite
they hate
one.
the concept of.
Here's my
they hate the
favourite one.
concept of masculinity.
Yes. Here's my favourite one, though. And the best part is, it's not spelt right. Guys are started to think we don't need them anymore. I'm sorry, who the hell was it who said that they are an independent fish who don't need no bicycle? Wasn't the bloody man.
Eat it. Fucking eat
You
it.
see, when you say that, I'm just like picturing Biden talking about a fish riding a bicycle in one of his speeches.
See, he
I
probably
could
would.
easily picture that happening. Well, you know, if you want to fix the economy, you gotta get the fish to ride the bicycle.
The
Yeah.
cold, dead black eyes of Biden.
Like, the lack of
That's right.
self-awareness is
Second.
astounding. The thing is, I'm starting to get a bit of a standoffish vibe from guys. Like, they're afraid to make a move, and I think it's because they think that we don't need them anymore. Yes, the reason they think that is because you literally said that.
Well, I think it's because there is the strength of the feminist argument, I think, is that there is an element of truth to it, that it is true that social norms and social expectations are restrictive and repressive to a certain degree. However, it's also important to remember that a large part of where gender roles emerge is, yes, from the expectations of the opposite sex. Masculinity is shaped in much the same way. It's not just that women are pressured to be what men desire them to be, but men are also pressured to be what women desire them to be. And it is also the case that these gender roles are also formed through the expectations of you know, one's own sex and like camaraderie, brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever, like the
Yep.
intersex expectations of one's peers also help form that. So there is an element to these groups that exists to facilitate social interaction. And I think dating is an obvious example of that. You know, gender roles make dating work because both the men and the women know the rules by which they're playing. If you're a guy, you do
know
this,
the
this, and this.
rules, and
And
so
so
do
I. And if you're a girl, you do this, this, and this. And so it's very easy to negotiate because both people understand the set of expectations that are placed on them. And I know this is a problem that I've run into in dating where it's like, am I going to get in trouble if I'm too forward? Am I going to be accused of being aggressive or rapey? And if I'm not forward enough, am I like then being a pussy? And so I've run into that problem in my own life.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Spoon,
And
would you
something
like
which
to...
I think is... Sorry. What were you saying second?
I was just going to ask if Spoon wanted to comment about his mating strategies.
My mating strategies?
He just talks.
Yeah, usually talking and being very outspoken in a masculine way. I think as far as feminism goes, I think of feminism as a... how can I
Mental
describe
disorder?
this? No. It's I'm trying to think of an analogy. It's like a biological infection mixed with a drug habit, in a sense that
I
it
can
is an
see that.
ideology. It's an ideology that corrupts the state of the world around you and sees you. It allows you to see the world for not as it really is, and your biology is telling you this is not right. And you can see it because feminists constantly find themselves, oh my God, why am I attracted to a 6'2", 200 masculine pound dude who can kick my ass and save me from a fucking bear? Because that's kind of his role. That's literally what he is built for, according to, hunter-gatherers, and that kind of got you here. So if you strip him of that role, he has no function. And your biology is telling you, I kind of would like a man like that around because... Why is my vagina tickling right now as I'm saying this? Oh, yeah, it's because you're attracted to that guy, you imbecile.
Yep.
And whatever kicking and screaming you can do, biology is going to win. Which is why you had that feminist a while ago on the show saying, I can't help sleeping with Trump supporters. I wonder why.
That's right.
I don't need to wonder why. I know exactly why. But,
They want the 666. They want the 666.
I will say here is...
6-pack. 6 figures. That's what they want.
Yeah.
I've never heard that one before. That's pretty good.
No, that's definitely not something I've heard, but I like it.
I would say...
it's accurate.
Well, I'm 5'7",
before we go on,
so I'm
Spoon,
fucked on one of them.
Something I would need to say to all guys is women have a social issue of not saying what they're actually wanting out loud in the face of other women, especially since feminism has spread so rapidly, because they fear the reprisal of other females and the judgment of other females because they're social creatures. However, they will very, very much like what you say in private. They won't express it publicly because they don't need the headache. But if you say to a bunch of women like, no, this is what I believe men should do, this is what I believe a woman should do, and women need to get the fuck out of these places, many will say, oh my God, you horrible person, you. There's not 2 or 3 will openly express their disgust to your face. But there's 5 or 6 that you don't see behind those massive feminists, because they're blocking the view, who are looking at you going, oh my God, a real man, please fuck me now. I guarantee you. I've said these things, and I've had a whole bunch of women say to me, I would never express this publicly, but I very much agree with you. And I say to them, why don't you say this publicly? They say, oh my God, do you not think we know what crap you'd get? If you know it, we sure the hell don't, so we're not going to say it. Simple as that.
Yeah, the silent majority is real, is what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah. So don't be afraid to express your opinion.
Sorry, Spain. I was just going to say, part of it is due to the fact that you have twice as many female ancestors as you have male ancestors, which is just, that's statistical biology, I'm sorry. So you have twice as many female ancestors. Yeah, you've got twice as many female ancestors, male ancestors. Women, females, rather than saying women, I'm going to say females, are the ones who have selected through sexual reproduction the characteristics of both sexes. We are a result, the biological differences between men and women is a result of the sexual selection of women.
Yeah,
Basically.
and that is also something interesting to note about traditional gender roles, with like the man being the head of the household. There was a very interesting, like in C.S. Lewis's essay on chivalry, he talks about how the danger of a classless society is that chivalry was a virtue that was, say, embodied in a specialized class and then transmitted through coercion or imitation to other classes, but that the classless society is the question of, is this new classless group of people the best of all traits from the classes that preceded them, or the sediment of all of them? And I think that is a question worth asking with something like gender roles. Like, men were traditionally the head of the household. There was this obedience of the wife that was expected, and as a consequence, the man was expected to adopt all of the responsibility. The man was expected to put his wife's needs before his own. In classical Christianity, it was that the man was supposed to be to his wife what Jesus was to the church, and Jesus like died on a cross. So in traditional marriage, the man is expected to wear a crown, but it is first and foremost a crown of thorns.
Indeed.
And so that's kind of the thing where the man takes that responsibility of being virtuous, of having to earn the woman's approval, because women have much higher standards than men do. So men had to be shaped to fit those standards into somebody chivalrous and virtuous. And then the wife would, kind of obey the husband in the marriage. The man would be the head of the household. And also because a woman is appropriately much more protective of her children, so the man would be more fair to the outside world. And kind of one of the consequences of dismantling that is, if you're going to dismantle that completely, then people need to take onto themselves the individual responsibility of adjusting to that. So if men don't have what feminists would call a privileged position in such a relationship, then do women need to lower their standards to the level that men's standards are at, or do men need to raise their own standards to the level of standards that women's standards are at? Because there is a very clear difference in the scrutiny that both sexes hold each other to as potential partners. And if we're supposed to equalize everything, is that something that men or women are going to have to take the responsibility of equalizing as well? Or is some presence of the gender role still required?
Well, one of the big issues that arises there is that one of women's biggest criteria hasn't actually changed at all. In general, women want a man that's more successful than they are. The problem is that now women are just as successful as men, which means that they still want a man that's more successful than they are, but that leaves them with like 10 dudes per country.
Yeah. It's the problem with the widening of the pool of potential suitors, and this means that women overestimate what they bring to a relationship, while underestimating what the man will bring, a potential man will bring into the relationship. Part of it, going back to you, what you were saying as well, second, with regards to the way that feminists have altered the discussion around the value of men and women, is what's happened is that they've both devalued men and women as a result of attempting to normalize men and women as being equal, as opposed to being not equal, that's the wrong term,
interchangeable.
Equivalent. That's an interchangeable or equivalent. So they've tried to make men and women equivalent or interchangeable, as opposed to being equal. So equal means that men and women are have the same value, inherent value, whereas equivalent means that they're interchangeable, as you were saying, second, which is not the case. I thought when you were talking, I was sort of thinking about how men are. The role that men have traditionally had is the protectors of the home, and the role that women have traditionally had is protector of the hearth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Like women are generally have been responsible for the for children, the domestic setting, the social dynamic that the household exists in between within itself and then its interactions with others, and then the traditional role that men have had has been that of the protector and provider, the source of security and comfort.
Yeah,
You know,
there's a YouTuber called Lindy Beige, who I hope you've all heard of, and he actually sums it up in quite a succinct way, in that women's the power of women's power and responsibility has been focused inwards, while men's power and responsibility has been focused outwards. So women look after and control the home, like God help you trying to get into the pantry past the wife. While men's power and responsibility has been focused outside, interacting with others, dealing with threats.
That's exactly what I was going to say, and it was because of a research, basically how I've seen the families in when I grew up. My father took care of everything outside the house. My mother took care of everything inside the house.
Yeah,
and that gave a
that's the same
really
as my
stable
family.
dynamic. Yeah, a really stable dynamic, and I gotta admit, I had a nice life growing up. Really thankful.
Yeah, I'm the same, and I've sort of looked at things nowadays, like with my parents' generation, because they're boomers. They were still in the situation where there wasn't an expectation that my mother was going to be everything. If she was going to work, she was going to work because she chose to work, and which is exactly what happened. My dad worked because that was his role in the family, and my mum chose to be in the household and managing the social side of our family life. And then when myself and my sisters were older, she chose to enter into the workforce for herself. That was something that she was doing because she wanted things to fill her time that was now free because she was not looking after children, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. That is kind of the real kind of thing there, where it's like feminists do have some point in criticizing, like kind of certain generals in a certain way, where it's like there's kind of like men aren't allowed to be vulnerable or show emotion. I mean, in my own life, I generally avoid breaking down and stuff, but I do have a healthy outlet where I'll talk about my emotions with like friends or other people in the appropriate setting. But kind of the thing is, if you abolish gender roles, then it is kind of the thing where it's like the individual has to be everything at that point. And to the extent that they can be everything, it's like fair enough. But is what we're seeing strong, stoic, emotionally self-controlled men who are also capable of being sensitive and talking about their emotions in a healthy way and sexual self-control, and women who are also chaste, family oriented, and generally have a go get it successful kind of attitude, which is what I think older feminism might have idealized to a certain extent. Are those two, I guess, uber models of men and women where they adopt the best characteristics of both? The actual outcome of that, or do we have a bunch of women going on like slut walks and sleeping with, whoever gets them moist, and a bunch of men sitting in their parents' basements covered in Cheeto dust? Like, again, are we getting is the individual getting the virtues of both or the sediment of both? Are men getting the virtues of both, or are they being kind of self-indulgent sexually and not adopting responsibility or being strong? And are women getting the virtues of both, or are they, sacrificing their sexual kind of self-control and general modesty? And I generally it's much more the latter than the former.
I know it's a
I
meme,
think
the
so.
whole big concept thing, but Carl really has a point with that. There's a lot of meaning in it.
Yeah, I sort of look at it as well from the point of view where you can't combine the virtues of men and women into a single one of the sexes. That's not going to work, because part of the reason why they are virtues is they are difficult to embody. You can't expect one person to embody all virtues. The only person, well, second, and I would agree with this, that the only truly virtuous human that has existed would have been Christ. Whereas where he expressed all aspects of human virtues. That's why he's like an ideal. He's someone to look to and go, this is someone we would like to embody, and we know we will fall short, which is fine. Whereas I think what second wave feminism did, rather than first wave feminism, second wave feminism definitely, and third wave feminism is just off the rockers, but second wave feminists were trying to say that a woman can do everything that a man can do, as well as do everything that a woman can do. Now, that's not healthy. And I know a lot of women who are between like my wife's age and sort of my eldest sister's age, sort of the Generation X sort of period, all of us Gen Xers. And I know a lot of divorced women, and they're divorced as a result of the fact that they had to be everything. And their husbands weren't able to meet their needs because their needs couldn't be satisfied, or they didn't believe their needs could be satisfied through a marriage partnership, for example, or a relationship partnership if you don't agree with marriage. But I think, I can understand. Anyway, but they were looking for something which they couldn't get. They wanted to be everything, and they wanted someone else who could also be everything. And that was never going to happen. You have to divide up the role.
Yeah, and and that is the thing. I think there are exceptions where, they're not going to be up to the standard of Jesus, but I do think there are general exceptions of people who can.
There's always exceptions. There's always exceptions. But you can't point to the exceptions and go, exactly, you're the rule. You're the rule. No, you're the exception. The vast majority of people are not going to be able to live up to the exception. So we've got to look at the exceptions and go, you are the outliers. We need to ignore you. What about everyone else?
Right, exactly. Because, that is what C.S. Lewis was talking about in his essay on chivalry, that chivalry was the bringing together of fierceness to the nth degree and meekness to the nth degree into a single person, which are two, qualities that have no natural tendency to gravitate towards each other. In fact, they're very difficult, borderline impossible to actually hold together at the same time. Which is why in the medieval ages it was done by say a specialized class of knights, people who could break bone in battle and be a gentle, almost maiden-like guest in a dining hall. That this wasn't something easy to achieve, and that it isn't something that it is ideal, but it's obviously not something you're going to expect the average person or the general population to all take to heart and entirely live up to.
Self-control, self-restraint. Those are virtues.
Yes, what is ideal is a man who is capable of immense violence, but chooses not to use it. Unless, of course, necessary.
Or meeting a communist.
I said when it's necessary.
Again, you repeat yourself. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
No need for repetition. Obviously, that's a joke. We're not like Antifa. Don't randomly attack people in the streets for their political views.
Yes, but do thoroughly mock them online.
Yes. I didn't mean that what second was bullshit. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Wog?
You're right there, Jezza?
Yeah, sorry. My connection just went weird.
Glories of Australian internet. Just another way that Australia is a third world country.
Oh, let's not talk about it. I don't want to think about it. I'm so angry about it still after all these years.
I thought it was all the spiders and snakes.
No, it's the fact that we could have had fiber optic connections to every single house in Australia, and instead we chose to go with the more expensive and shittier option. But anyway.
Nice.
Yeah.
it is kind of interesting because my mom is my mom was actually the breadwinner in my household, and they have a very good marriage. At the same time, my dad also has like a very bold personality and would do like all the kind of construction work on the house, like the say fixing the roofing, let's say, or other kinds of physical manual labor that would obviously be attractive to the opposite sex.
Yep. Would you say that they still had defined gender roles within the relationship? See, that's what it is. That's what you need.
Yeah,
Same in
you'll
my family,
also
actually,
notice
both
that
parent. Oh, sorry.
you'll also notice that even though Second's mother was the breadwinner, take a look at her choice of career, a people and caring focused role.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's a nurse, folks.
What a hero!
My mom's a nurse.
Back to you, Trim.
Yeah, I was actually about. In my family, both mother and father were the breadwinners, but they had you could say, the classical gender roles still.
Yeah. Yeah. I was sort of looking at it and you go, it's not necessary that one person needs to work and one person doesn't need to work, but you need to be able to, like, the relationship still needs to be balanced.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
While the trad lifestyle is good, it is not necessary.
And it's also like this stuff doesn't need to be. I just want to stress, like, this stuff doesn't need to be absolutely strict, right? But to the extent that there is a deviation to the extent that there is a deviation from it, there has to be an awareness of a general rule, and where things deviate, there has to be some responsibility and understanding taken of that deviation, let's say, for I guess things to work out. Like, for example, if the woman is kind of taking a role of headship in the family and interacting with the outside world, then she also needs to be aware of her own instincts to put her children first as fiercely as she does, and not be as much of a Karen if she's taking that position of headship. And if she's willing to not be that much of a like Karen and treat the outside world, I guess, more fairly as a man's natural instincts, let's say, would be more suited to, then that's entirely fair. But
are you trying to suggest there, Second, that maybe the roles in a relationship should be an act of negotiation between the two equal parties who are involved in the relationship?
Holy shit, are you
what a crazy idea.
Sexist
bastard.
Misogynist
monster, how dare you? Ree. Okay, can I do that? Oh, fuck my throat. I still have, my throat is still fucked from that fucking video.
Thank you for your kind words about my mom, Capstasher. Also, my mom she overcame breast cancer and has been cancer free for 15. As of this summer, she will have been cancer free for 15 years. So,
I'm really happy for you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very dark summer for me when I was like 7. Or was I 8? I was like 7 or 8 or something like that. That was a very depressing summer. Yeah. Actually, it might have actually been better at that age as opposed to being older, because that is something that I noticed, is that I went to a funeral for when my grandfather died when I was like 12. It didn't hit me as hard as when my grandmother died when I was like 21. I think largely because, like, when you're a kid, yeah, you're not as emotionally self-controlled or stable, but you also don't fully have kind of the understanding to grasp everything that's going on. So in a certain sense, when you're more mature, it actually like hits you harder. So I actually think had my mom been going through breast cancer now, I would be a lot more fucked by it than I was when I was 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Well, you're more egocentric as a child.
Yeah, bet you are. that we all are actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm
No, 'cause
again really
I
happy
was
for you,
very
man, because
worried.
not
I was
everyone
very
has
worried
that.
about her. No, I was very worried about her. I don't think it was the egocentric thing. I think it was just more so not being able to fully grasp and conceptualize the full implications.
Yeah,
Like
the
my mind,
comprehension of the situation.
I wasn't seized with anxiety of like, oh shit, like my mom's gonna die. Like that hadn't fully appeared in my consciousness at that point. Whereas if it happened now, I would be having a lot more of a breakdown because I would actually have a more of an understanding of what's going on.
Yeah. There's a guy in my circle. Yeah, his mother passed away actually from breast cancer last year, and he's around 15 now.
Oh, that's rough.
So not everyone
Man.
is lucky. Damn. I mean,
Yeah,
I hate cancer with a passion.
Yeah, I actually know a guy who got home to his house from high school and his dad was like on the floor, like his heart had stopped and he tried to do CPR, but his dad died. Like, imagine being the person to walk in on your dad just being dead in the middle of the living room, no warning whatsoever.
Hell, that's what it is.
Yeah, can't even begin to imagine how awful that'd be.
All right, let's move to a little less depressing personal matter and get back to the depressing state of the world.
Well, yes.
Black pills are getting too intimate.
From one sense of cancer to another.
Yes. So, why are guys not approaching women? Is it because if we approach you at work, you'll go to HR? If we approach you at the gym, you'll go to the manager? If we approach you in the shopping centre, that's not allowed either. Where the hell are we meant to approach them?
I think it's in the bush in their backyard. No, wait, no, that's not allowed either.
I'm gonna go with transgender bathrooms.
Oh, the spoon. Oh my gosh.
No, you gotta do
Under the pretext of a bad wig at 5 o'clock shadow.
Oh god, you gotta do the Stan strategy and go outside a woman's window with a boombox playing. Shh, the monkey.
Yeah, that sounds like an excellent way to get arrested.
Yeah.
What about you're a strange animal though? I hear that gets women rocking.
If that gets a woman rocking, you know you found a good one. If she's like based and Crowder pilled, like perfect. Yeah,
yes, Capstatius says, insert Gillette commercial here.
Oh no.
Yes.
See, I'm a bad one. Like I've done like I've been married for a fair few years now, so.
Oh, that girl looks cute. I'm gonna go
very relieved, sir.
That girl looks cute. I'm gonna go talk to her. Whoa, man, what are you doing? Don't approach that woman and ask her out. It's aggressive.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine that 1 second. See, I don't know. Like, I find it weird. Like, I find all the dating thing weird because after because I was married for 10 years, almost 10 years, and then I got divorced. Then I was single for a fair few years, and then got involved in the dating scene, and I just talked to women, and then
you misogynist.
Like, I also did online. I know. I did online dating as well.
Oh.
And the thing which was interesting about that was because I was very upfront that I was not interested in one night stands, that I was interested in. I was looking for a partner for the long term. That weeded out so much crap just straight away because I wasn't interested in like forming superficial relationships with people.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh shit! It's a good thing to have standards.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Standards.
Well, it's in some areas I've been. It seems like actually there's a stigma towards the virtue of keeping it until marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You are in some places you are actually looked down upon unless you're into one night stands and shit like that.
Yeah, I find that weird. Like, I sort of look at it and go, well, see, because I'm like in my 40s, so I go, well, I was a bit of a coomer when I was like, 17, 18, 19, sort of 20, sort of in that age. But other than that, that's, I went through my wild oats period, when I was a teenager, and back when I was, willing to take stupid risks, I guess you might say. But other than that, I've never really been interested in it. And even back then, I wasn't really interested in it. It was just, hadn't developed my own personality to the point where I was able to go against the crowd.
Yeah.
I will say there is an elephant in the room that no one is addressing.
Yeah, the feminist.
Please address it, Spoon. Come on.
And that addressing is, if you're good looking, all of those methods of communication will actually work regardless.
Yes, you're correct.
Rules 1 and 2. Rules 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Like, there's a litany of things you must and must not do with a woman. Unless you're good looking, in which case, fuck it all out the window. And no one wants to say that, but that is the God's honest fucking truth. If a really good looking guy's going to go up to a girl, he can get any fucking girl, no matter how much of an asshole he is. Well, within reason.
True. And the
But
second
yeah.
people on that line are those who have a lot of money.
Well, maybe that's another good way of weeding it out, right? Because I imagine some women have like standards, and so like if you're a good-looking guy and she's not just gonna sleep with you because of that, maybe there's something you could pursue a little more seriously there.
What, a woman with brains, maybe?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're rare.
Intelligence is very sexy. Intelligence is sexy. But yes, you are right, Spoon. I agree with you on that one, that intelligence is rare. But stupidity is also rare amongst women. You get women sit it. Yeah, because, well...
No, he is technically right. If you look at the IQ
Yes.
curves, men and women have the same average intelligence, but men deviate more from the average in either direction.
Yes, when you're measuring it as basic intellect, but a lot of women go into
IQ is a bit
acting
different to that.
Women like to act stupid.
Yes.
There's a difference. It's the difference between intelligence and wisdom.
Yes. Yeah.
I know the traditional story is that women have an IQ slightly higher than men, but if the average IQ for men is 90 and the average IQ for women is 100 and mine is 125, they're still stupid compared to me.
Yes.
So there is
I've
that.
got no idea what my IQ is, for example, and I don't really care what my IQ is. I know what my wife's IQ is, and like she's got an IQ in the 130s, so...
Which ironically makes you look good by comparison, because she chose you, so she at least has good decision making.
No, I just say that I've got a
nice way
face.
of complimenting yourself without actually saying it.
That and you have a voice to die for.
Oh, thank you very much, Jim.
Yeah, the voices do help.
Not as good as
Spoons,
though. Spoons is beautiful.
I actually prefer your voice to mine.
You sound like a slightly older Spoon. You sound like a slightly older Spoon. That's it.
Yeah, he has a certain age to his voice that I will not get until I am 10 years older. And that is just
you're
the
in
case.
your 30s.
Yeah,
oh my god. I figured it out.
Yeah.
I figured it out.
I'm 43.
Jessa is Spoon from the future. Or Spoon is a clone of Jessa. They're 10 years after him.
That sounds lovely. But I do have to say that it is a bit creepy, but I do appreciate the timbre in your voice. You've got a really nice reading voice, I have to agree.
Ah, yes. Resonance. Good times.
Yes.
I also like the wizard voice.
I got that from yes, the wizard voice. That's actually a friend of mine who came up with that. I don't know where. I think he got it from some other cartoon. And I will never ever do the imitation as well as he does. But whenever he did, kind of an almost like if Gandalf was a British aristocrat, that's kind of the theme he went for. So he sounds kind of like that, and then I kind of do an impression of his impression. But he says insane shit, like the only way to open the portal is through your ass, in that kind of voice, and it is hilariously funny. And God, I haven't seen him in fucking ages, actually. And now that I'm saying it out loud in my head, I can't stop giggling about it.
So you're trying to tell us that your wizard voice is an Inception voice?
Kind of, but I also suspect my own voice is that. Because I didn't sound like this growing up, because I grew up in Ireland, and I had a very thick Irish accent at one point, and I heard myself over recording, and I went, is that what I sound like? God, I don't want to sound like that. I sound like one of the plebs, so fuck that.
Yeah.
So I
That is
started
weird.
watching. I started watching a show. If you're English, you'll be familiar with it. QI.
Yes.
So it was quite interesting, and Stephen Fry was on it, and
Yes.
Stephen Fry and Phil Jupitus and Eddie Izzard and Bill Bailey and all these people, and I said like I like Stephen's bass resonance, but the accent is a bit posh. I kind of like a bit of Bill Bailey's, and then Eddie Izzard's mannerisms. And if you put them all in a blender, what will you end up with? Well, something like this, I imagine.
I think you're correct. Yeah, I can totally picture that progression into your voice very clearly.
Yes. And then because I always like the English accent, because I imagine my surname was Hayes, for heaven's sake, so there's freaking English blood in me somewhere. So I thought that if I can sort of just get those three and mix them together, would I have some sort of an accent that would show wisdom but not too much pretension? Because I feel if you have a deep, bassy, resonant voice and you do not flip out at shit when you have an argument, you can make people look like complete idiots even if you're speaking shite. Just by the fact that you're calm and sound as an authority figure.
Yeah, just don't like. Yeah, you just gotta not adopt the particular kind of English accent that BBC presenter on the race on the university race thing had, where she's like, "So did you find out about it from Twitter?"
No, dear Lord,
2 days later.
I would rather sound like Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Saturday.
Oh no.
Mercy.
That's just an evidence of the lack of standards in the BBC, because the BBC used to have an accent that was the BBC accent, the English presenter accent. Like they all sounded the same in a lot of ways. There was variations, but yeah, you didn't have those voices. Like everyone who used to be on the BBC was understandable. And that was part of what the accent was designed around for the BBC, because the BBC used to be broadcast across the entire Commonwealth. So every member of the Commonwealth needed to be able to understand what was being broadcast by the BBC. And so they had an accent that was nice and clear.
It was to show you that this is who still owned you.
Well, that too.
Well, there was actually a point where Sargon had to make his speech like deliberately less posh. Like I noticed this in videos of his way back in the day, where when he would say issue, he would say issue, and I noticed that, and it kind of bothered me a little. And then at one point in a later video or live stream or something, he was like, "I've realized I've been saying issue instead of issue. I have to stop doing that because it makes me sound like a posh London twat." And then he stopped doing that.
Well, it was his own fault, because he was sounding like a posh London twat back in the day.
Yeah, he did.
Have any of you seen his video building a sling?
He's never sounded posh to me, but he used to have a London twang.
I think the poshest person that I heard speak to him was probably Crowd.
Yes.
Crowd had a very, very posh accent, even when he was drunk. Even when he was drunk and he came onto the 2016 election stream, he just came and just said, "I'm sorry, I'm very drunk." And even that just sounds really uppity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed about hearing my voice on recording. I don't hate my voice when I hear it on recording, but I do hear it and kind of think, why do I sound a little drunk even though I haven't had anything to drink?
It's still in your system,
I don't hear that with you. You've got you've got a very mild American accent, as far as I'm concerned. Like
it's not as thick as you'd think a Texan would be.
Yeah, you've got a really understandable accent, whereas a lot of Americans, I don't know, like the Wisconsin accent and stuff like that, like they're just strange.
Or if you ever go into Louisiana, the Cajun dialect.
Yeah. Well, I've been to New Orleans, but that was a long time ago now. So.
Yeah, I have some family in New Orleans.
So, guys, I've finally managed to get the government website working because fantastic use of money, guys, to get up our COVID stats. And again, YouTube, official government staff. Look, it's even got logos and everything. So, since March 2020, 1,585 cases from all sources, including those from overseas. So, here's the case summary. So, we currently have 13 active cases. We've had 7 deaths. But let's have a look at when those cases came from. So, we hit 1,000 cases in April 2020. We have had less than 600 since April 2020. But we're still locking down anytime there's a case.
Yes. It's
Sounds
like
fun.
every time someone catches the flu.
Yeah.
I just think
You
of it as the
hear a
flu these days.
You hear a slight cough, and people panic, scream, throw everything in the air, and they scream and run away.
So, here's the thing. For people in their 80s, the prime demographic for getting it, 20 cases. 20 people 80 or older have had COVID.
Really?
It's very frustrating.
Yep.
Every day we stray further and further.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and on this page somewhere is it lists the sources of the infection. Here we go. So, likely source of infection. Out of the 1,585 total cases, 1,257 were acquired from overseas. 300 were acquired from people
Australia
in Queensland.
when they were already ill.
God.
Yes. So we've had 300 acquired in the community. Like, I'm pretty
So
sure more
300
people have
community
got...
transmissions.
Yes. Since March 2020.
Oh my god. So
This is why
Less than
Australia
one a
has
day.
done so well. Because nobody in the bloody country has COVID or outside of the people
Yeah.
coming in from planes.
yeah, exactly.
Wonderful.
It was like was it Sydney that had the cruise ship that was quarantined?
Oh, the one where the government
it-
decided they'd just let all the infected people off. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
pretty
but
sure it was Sydney.
That was the single largest instance of COVID, I believe, that we've had in the entire country, and it was because it was on a cruise ship where everyone had gotten sick before they were allowed off the boat.
Yes, and I think it would have been reasonable to just, I don't know, get a smaller boat and take supplies to them. You know?
Yeah,
nice
they could have just left them
quarantine
there.
on the boat. But speaking
They were on a
of...
cruise ship in Sydney Harbour.
Yep, like they could have just left the gangplank up. Not an issue.
yeah,
But speaking
Oh,
of
it's crazy.
the cases in Queensland, which is kind of representative of Australia. So, what do you think happens if you're in India and you test positive for COVID? You don't get to come back.
Nothing.
You die,
Oh,
usually,
nice.
by the sounds of it now in the news.
The government refuses to let you on the repatriation flights, so fuck you, stay in India and fucking die. That is the Australian government's response.
Nice. It's
That's interesting.
good to know that they take care of you.
Well, if that's
I
the
wonder why they're
response,
doing
then
that.
why do they need the lockdown? It seems like, have one or the other. If you're going to lock everything down anyways, might as well let them back. If you're not letting them back if they have COVID, then, why are you locking down? Just
I
close
have the answer.
If you're going to close the borders anyways,
I have
Well,
the
that
answer
was the
after
thing.
listening
With
to
our
Bezic
borders
for a while.
closed, we wouldn't have had the friggin' problem in the first place. But go ahead, Trent.
I was just gonna say, I know the answer from listening to Bezic for almost a month now. It's because of fucking Australia.
Yes.
it's because it gets worse.
Yeah, so
Stop
40
it,
people
please.
test positive, and then 70 passengers are refused access to first world health care and are forced to stay in India because they have the coof.
Oh boy. logical.
You know, there's a reason why hell is thought of as a bottomless pit. It's because no matter how bad things get, some stupid son of a bitch like you can find a way to make it infinitely worse. I feel like that's the motto of the Australian government.
Pretty much.
No,
Yeah.
no, the motto of the Australian
Hey,
government
dude.
is China. That guy from Austria in the 30s and 40s? Oh, they're a bunch of pansies. We'll show them how it's really fucking done.
Yep.
Scary.
Seems about right. Hey, what's the population of India right now? Does anyone know off the top of their head?
Like 1.5 billion?
Isn't that China?
In the last 20 days, it has seen a 25% decrease.
Wait, shit. Let me think. I think back in early, or was it late 2018 or early 2019? If I can remember the lyrics, it was like, "You've got a population of 1.32 billion, but most your videos can't seem to hit even a million. Subbot."
So,
Okay.
so
it's
here's...
1.39 billion.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
I
That
will
sounds
not
about right.
apologize for simping for PewDiePie there.
That is okay. PewDiePie is one of the few good Swedes.
Yeah. So, our High Commissioner to India, some wanker, says it'll be disappointing for the people who can't come back. And then he goes on to say, and I quote, "But they too want to return home safely. They too want to return home to an Australia which is free of COVID. No, they want to come home to a country where they can get a fucking hospital bed." Jesus fucking...
That'd be nice, huh?
You know, instead of the country where apparently people are dying in the streets and falling in the river. Maybe they'd like to... Maybe our citizens want to exercise their natural born or granted fucking right to return to a country with fucking healthcare.
More dead people in the streets. How vibrant.
Wait, does Black Lives Matter reach India again?
They're the wrong shade.
Oh.
I'll return in a moment. I have to refill my water.
That's okay. I was just having a look at what percentage, what's the percentage of the population that have passed away from COVID in India. It's
So
0.019.
Oh my god, so
that's
many?
actually... I think that's lower than the rate in Queensland. No, wait, was it zero? How many zeros were there, Jezza?
It is 0.019.
Okay, so round it to 0.02. So that's actually the same rate as America, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just they've got the same infection rate and death rate as everywhere else in the world.
Yeah, it just turns out that when you compare
Despite the
300
fact-
and something million to 1.3 billion, strange how that works.
Yeah, and also, interestingly enough, that's despite the fact that India's healthcare cannot keep up.
Yeah, so we've got 10,000 Australians, permanent residents and their immediate family members stuck in India. And we're going to have... So we've got the one flight that a bunch of them aren't allowed onto, and then we're going to have another 2 repatriation flights back from India. I'm sorry, we've had how many planes sitting around doing jack shit for a year and a half? We could have all those people out of India fucking tomorrow if we wanted.
What do they vote? Is there a count of what is the average voter there? Maybe
In
they're
Australia.
seeking to fortify their next election.
Unfortunately, in Australia, you don't really have a great deal of options when you choose to vote. You've got the 2 big parties which are more interested in screwing each other over than helping the populace. You've got the Greens, who are lefties.
Useless.
Yeah. And then you've got One Nation, which, being the only thing to the right of Mao, is full of everyone from the sane people to the absolute fucking nut jobs.
Sounds like a fun time.
Yep. Oh, do you not know what Australia's death rate is? Man, this is amazing.
0.0044 for Queensland.
Well, so Queensland's actually higher than the total for Australia because the total for Australia is 0.0035.
Oh boy.
Do you think that might have
Because
some
we've
relation to the fact that we've got first-class healthcare?
Yeah, we've got 910 deaths in total from COVID
Vibrant.
out of our 25 million people.
Oh, where are they all coming from? If there were only 7 in Queensland, I blame New South Wales as per usual. Build a wall, make New South Wales pay
and
for it.
Victoria.
Yeah, build a wall, make New
Yeah,
South
it's New
Wales
South
pay
Wales,
for it.
Victoria. It's always those two. Everything that's bad in Australia comes out of New South Wales and Victoria.
Yeah, and that other state, like in the middle of them. You know, the ACT. That's where all the worst stuff comes from.
That's right, because they're not a real state. They're just a territory.
Build the fucking
clean ones.
Yeah, build a
Purge them
fucking
all.
wall around Texas to keep the Californians out.
And make the Californians pay for it.
Yes.
So, how often do we hear the song Californication?
It comes on the radio every now and then.
Yeah, because every time I just think about California, I just hear Californication.
It's the only good thing about that state. And it's got nothing to do with it.
A lot of fornication in California.
Speaking of Australia...
Oh, man.
Mainly by the homeless.
Speaking of Australia...
Jezza, did you
and now
see...
for something completely different.
Did you see the Queensland Police Force is in trouble for sex-based discrimination against men?
About time.
Yep.
That's something you can get in trouble for?
Really?
Yeah, it turns out in Australia, we're at least consistent with our enforcement of our laws. Well, if you... Well, unless you take race into account.
Man.
Showing once again that race is the highest thing on the intersectional stack.
It is.
Yes.
Yep.
But yeah, the
Race is
Queensland
definitely the
Police
highest thing
thought
on
it'd be a
intersectional stack.
fantastic idea to state that not less than 50% females could be recruited. So if you have an intake of 100 people and 200 women apply and 500 men apply, wonder how that's going to go. Oh wait, 200 more meritorious male applicants would have been successful in their attempt to join the police service if it wasn't for the various discriminatory practices.
Standards.
I feel no pity when people get what's coming for them. I honestly don't.
Sadly, we clearly don't, because those 200 women are still employed. I want to see all of them taken back and redo the fitness test. The men's fitness test.
There you go.
Not this lower standards for women crap. If there's a standard to be a cop, there's a standard to be a bloody cop.
Wait, what?
My progressive friends are like,
what is this? A guy in Canada got arrested for vandalizing a Nazi monument?
Wait, what?
What?
Check the chat.
Amazing.
Do you have a link for that, man? Capstasher, if you've got a link for that, pop it in the chat and we'll have a look.
Oh boy.
Do you have a Wikipedia article to support that claim?
Oh my gosh,
No,
don't say that.
I can give you an article that can show the exact date of, I'm just gonna stop. You all know what I'm gonna say anyway.
No talking to Hassan.
It wasn't Hassan, it was someone else.
Someone worse.
Oh,
the one who shall not be named. Yes, I'm gonna send it to you in a direct message. Let's see. Okay. Uber mode. Is it really quiet, or have I just fallen out of sound again?
We're just waiting on you.
No, it's
No,
just really
yeah,
quiet.
yeah.
Okay, good. I get really paranoid about this shit. I mean, again, I might be a millennial in age, but my tech specs are just completely boomerized.
Well, I mean, that does give some continuity with the Sargon and the Lotus Eaters.
Yeah, I am the boomer guy. Oh, that's nice. We have a guy who's closer to the boomers, and I'm more boomer than him. Fuck me.
No, 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 no. No, I disagree. I
You
disagree.
disagree?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Are we gonna have
I'm
a
just
boomer
luckier
up?
than you.
One way to put it.
Whatever you say,
Right.
boomer.
Exactly. Is Capstash
Yeah.
saying that he's already sent the article?
Okay, YouTube may be doing something daft. Let me
Yeah,
have a
he's-
look.
he's saying there must be
wow,
a
that was
huge-
what a surprise.
Yes, crazy thought.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube is interfering with this. The cathedral is cracking down.
Oh,
No,
dear.
I mean YouTube is a noble and strong and noteworthy and honorable thingy that
Well,
we
It
totally
looks like
support.
YouTube's killed the link, so let me see if
Canada
I can...
police investigate vandalism of monument to Nazi troops. Canada Nazi monument hate crime. Here we are. It's in the Guardian.
Oh, and clearly they're
So-
reliable.
Oh shit.
It's the Australian Guardian, even better.
Who are actually like... Is this the
Yes.
one that's 9
Yes.
months old? In July 2020? Or is
I
there a
mean,
different
how
one?
is that not a hate crime though? Like, I think that shows the problem with those kinds of laws in general. It's like, yes, you are being
Yeah.
hateful towards the Nazis. Like,
Yes, it is being investigated as a hate crime. Graffiti spray
Holy
painted on a
shit.
monument to the Nazi soldiers in a small Canadian city is being investigated by police as a hate crime. A move that has prompted disbelief among human rights advocates, despite the fact that it's perfectly in line with progressive arguments. Around the 21st of June, the words Nazi War Monument was spray painted onto a cenotaph commemorating soldiers in the 14th SS Division in an Ontario cemetery, the Ottawa Citizen reported. Interesting. 14th SS Division. The
Yeah.
SS.
Yep.
There we go.
That shouldn't be a hate crime, but if you're stupid enough to have hate crime laws, well done. You've defaced a monument.
Yep, that's
You
correct.
get what you bloody well deserve.
we got the 14th Super Straight Division.
Correct. 14th Super Straight Division. Because they were Ukrainian.
There's
And
a simple
clearly
reason why they
they're-
will defend the Nazi monument.
Yep. There
And
we
it's
go.
this.
Interesting. Oh my gosh.
That's what they've
What a
got him
quote.
under.
Okay.
I'll just read why they're in trouble, and then you can go with the quote. It's against the law in Canada to make a public statement which incites hatred against any identifiable group. Well, there you go. You've got a group. It's identified. They're inciting hatred. Boom, done. That's why your laws are stupid. Go ahead, Jazza.
Okay. So this is the quote in the article, which I just absolutely love because of the irony of it. So here is the quote. I am frankly dumbfounded, ! Tweeted Bernie Farber, chairman of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, who added that he would gladly offer a workshop to officers to educate them on the nature of hate crimes and called for a retraction by police.
Oh, he's going
So
to offer
he's
them a
part of the-
workshop on hate crimes, is he? What are they going to do? Go find some Jews and show them how it's really done?
Correct. Well, he is part of an anti-hate network. So he's the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. And we know that hate only goes in one direction.
Of
Yes,
course. Of
clearly.
course.
And we all know that the name of something defines it correctly, which is why we know that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is democratic, a republic, and cares about the people.
Of course. I mean, what
Of
else would it be?
course.
Yes, exactly, Cenk. Wouldn't be anything else.
Gosh. Good old gang. Anyway.
It's just
That guy
embarrassing.
He's a mystery to me.
This is why hate crime laws are just, they are not well thought through.
I hate hate crime laws.
Yes, at
There, I said
most
it.
this idiot should have... It's spray paint. At most this idiot should have gone a vandalism charge. Not a bloody hate
That's
crime
correct.
charge. But unfortunately, when you make rules, you gotta
need to
stick
apply
with them.
equally.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Yes. And that's the problem.
pretty much.
That's the problem. This is what the progressives have failed to recognise in their rabid push to installate societal change, is that what they are pushing through in order to target their enemies targets them just as validly. It's so frustrating that they don't understand. It's like, when you arm the government with a weapon that is indiscriminate, it will be turned on you at some point. So
As
frustrating.
ContraPoints discovered with cancel culture.
Oh, yeah, but that wasn't. Yeah, anyway.
Interesting.
That was very, very, very light. That was a light brush.
Yeah.
Could have been so much worse.
Which chick was like, oh, don't Google me, I'm super cancelled right now. Who was that?
What?
There was a chick
James
who-
Lindsay.
Oh yeah, the nostalgia chick or something. What's her pseudonym again?
Yeah, just while we try and figure that out, one of the guys in our Discord has given us a meme to have a look at.
All right.
Yeah, so, turns out that hashtag brakes are racist, because they have a master cylinder and a slave cylinder. Therefore, hashtag cut your brake lines to end systemic racism. Firstly, disavow, but secondly, that's hilarious.
Well, I am technically a racist, but racist against seagulls.
By that logic, so are computers who also have master and slave drives.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
but
we're using...
remember how, oh god, what was it? GitHub decided that they'd no longer call it master and slave branches or something.
Yeah, it's called male and female.
Yeah. Chat is... Jesus Christ. Chat is saying that the name of that person is Lindsay Ellis.
Oh, that's
Lindsay Ellis,
that's
sorry.
Yeah.
I know it was Lindsay something.
I just remember she was cringe as fuck.
Oh, of course, she's a woman complaining.
True.
Oh.
I mean,
Alright, fellas,
disavow.
Why would
That's
you
right.
disavow that? Do not cower.
Actually, no.
It is true.
It's part of a joke.
Grow a set of stones and condemn all the whammon for their bullshit. Besides, the only ire you're going to earn is from leftists who have your ire already, so why bother?
Oh, okay. Fuck
This is true.
it.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, I just noticed I dropped out for a second time, so I think that I'm at the limits for my my capabilities. I'm sorry tonight, fellas.
That's
so I
that's
may
all right,
drop
Jezza.
out on you.
But I did want to show you before we're done for the night.
Oh yes.
What?
Yeah.
Because in Queensland, wait, it gets worse.
No, you can't.
I would like to introduce you to Queensland's youngest drag queen.
Oh, I saw that. Oh my gosh.
13.
Is this the boy who like debuted at 11 or 10 or something insane?
You mean 10? Yes. So this kid has been... This poor abused child has been molested and fucking groomed since at least 9. And this is disgustingly local to me, and I'm going... I'm very, very tempted to get very pissed off locally. absolutely fucking disgusting. Everyone involved in this needs to get in the fucking wood chipper.
Yeah, wood chipper, go burr.
Yeah.
There's not enough wood chippers for these fuckers.
The space doubles as a family-friendly drag club called Taboo, where once a month for the past 10 years, drag queens perform to sold-out audiences. What the fuck is wrong with you people?
What the fuck is a family-friendly...
Where they like it's where they like kids a bit too much. That's what family-friendly means, apparently.
You know, the sad part of all of this is my immediate reaction is, oh, thank God, at least he's 13 and not 9.
Yeah, too bad he was 10 when he debuted.
Yeah, like, because, you know, what is it? There's like a 9-year-old drag kid in the US named Lactatia. Like, how is Lactatia? It's like lactation. Why?
Yeah, yes. It's...
What the hell?
Leftism. It's so progressive.
Yes, progressives. They just.
But this crap.
This is why I can't.
But word of advice, leftists. Word of advice: if you want gay people to be accepted in polite, civilized society, stop fucking molesting kids. Stop grooming them. You fucking pedophiles. Leave them the fuck alone.
You know, I have to say though, major respect to like the gay people at these like gay bars who saw this and were like, what the fuck am I looking at? And like reported it to the news. Because like a decent amount of this like reporting comes from like gay people with standage. And so like correct. full respect to them, you know, we're not making a comment that like that gay people are intrinsically like this or whatever, because I like obviously there's plenty of them that are like just as disgusted about this and disgusted enough to like actually come forward about it and potentially paint a target on their backs. So
I view it like this. You have two kinds. It's gay people, and then you have the bundles of sticks. Yes. And the gay people are the cool people. Normal, just if you meet them and they're like, I am homosexual, but really, couldn't tell. Or the flamboyant ones, you know, they're cool people. Then you get the bundles of sticks who are...
Here we go. Conservatives are the real snowflakes because they get angry when transvestites molest little kids. Well, fuck me then. I guess I'll be a snowflake.
Boo-hoo.
Just get in the wood chipper, you fucking perverts.
Yeah, what about the mother who's like needs a transgender kid or whatever the fuck it was? That was disgusting.
I'm just glad that the courts didn't fuck up and actually let the woman keep the kid.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
really.
Am I saying I'm better than you? Yeah, I guess I'll take it a step further. I'm fucking better than you.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. Look, listen to this quote. Back in the olden days, this would have been absolutely frowned upon. It fucking should be, you child molesters. You fucking nonsense. Get away from the fucking kids.
Okay.
And this woman, this is the kid's mother. She needs to be imprisoned along with the rest of them.
Yeah. It's not even acceptable in my opinion.
Yeah, one might say this is nonsense. Nonsense.
Yes, very much.
Funny because it's true.
It is nonsense.
I'm sorry, but if a 13-year-old girl was dressed like this, I'd be pissed off and have a problem. But a boy, it's clearly a fucking adult abusing them.
Yes.
But they just want to score progressive points because I'm the mother to this creature, and I'm so progressive.
I mean, yeah, they're like, would you get pissed if it was girls? It's like, check their reaction to cuties.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And this guy here, this fucker
at that age. No.
He's the founder of the show. I'm going to say it because if this fucker wants to sue me, I'll fucking see him in court. This guy needs to be in prison because he's a fucking child molester.
Amen.
Anyway, I think I'm just about tired out on this particular fucking disgrace to humanity.
Fair enough for me. I've
You
seen
were
enough.
channeling a lot of Callum energy. I will give you that.
Yes. I'm sorry,
For
I
good
just get
reason.
really upset when adults abuse children. I guess that's just a
Yes.
personal failing of mine.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh.
how could you? How could you?
Yes, terrible of you. Terrible of you, Bezek. You shouldn't be getting upset when
Yes.
when
How
children are
homophobic
being
of me.
taken advantage of.
Oh boy.
Well, a better way of looking at it, I think, is you're viewing the child as being someone who requires protection, and you think that they need to be given the ability to grow up as a child first before they have to enter into the adult world. And when they enter into the adult world, it should be under their own terms, as opposed to the terms that have been dictated to them by those who have molded them incorrectly as a child.
No, I'm fine with saying, the terms on which they enter adulthood should be, fucking enforced on them by the outside world to some degree, such as you have to be an adult to enter the adult world. That is a
Yes.
term set by somebody who is not them that I am fine putting on them.
Yeah, but that's adults are like when we talk about someone entering into like the adult world, we assume that they are an adult at that point, and that's when they can make adult decisions, and there is a release of them from the obligation of their parental restrictions, if that makes sense. I also think something that was harking back to like in the Lotus Eaters, where people were talking about the concept of bad parents. This is the period where those exceptions, those bad parents, something needs to be done from society stepping in to protect the child. So
Yeah.
This is clearly a
much.
child who needs to be protected from bad parents.
Yeah,
Yes.
can we put something else on the screen? I'm tired of looking at that. Ugh.
There we go.
Are you sexist? Or how dare you? Oh, that's not very
And one of
progressive.
the most disgusting things about this whole thing is in Queensland we have this thing called a blue card, where in order to work with children you need to have your private life dug into with a fucking microscope. And even if you've never been convicted of a crime, if you've been charged with it and a jury's found you guilty, you can be denied the right to work in and around children just based on crap that's made up. But these fucking are allowed near these kids? I'm sorry, what the fuck, Queensland? On a side note, I think I'm going to be calling Protective Services tomorrow. Well, later today. Monday. This is fucking disgusting.
Yes. You'll be on the phone for a fair while, mate. I've had to report people in the past, and prepare to be waiting for quite some time.
Oh, I'm also going to be on the phone to my council and my local member of parliament, and if they give me any of this crap, well, Queensland's the only state in Australia where one-party consent is legal.
Yeah, I was about to say, record it.
Yeah,
Nice.
it turns out that Queensland's the only state where you don't need the other person's permission to record a phone call. So, let's fucking go.
Exactly. All right, I better go, guys, because I'm hit my limit for the evening. I'm sorry, I'm now getting tired.
Yeah.
So
I've also promised to help a friend out in her bakery,
Yes,
so I gotta go very soon.
Yeah, we've hit 2.5 hours, which is about what we hit on the pilot as well. So that does sound like a pretty good place to stop. Unless anyone's got something they desperately want to cover, but otherwise we will let Jezza go and have a nap.
And I feel like we should do like another 5 minutes of like something else that isn't that.
Absolutely.
Something, I don't know what, but something
do you know what
to
we
get that
should?
sour taste out of the mouth.
I think that what would be wonderful as a way of finishing out for just a few minutes would be to have just a short reading from Spoon from something, which is a white pilling moment, because I think that would be a highlight.
There's this
I'm sorry, Spoon.
And
Because
what
I
am I
think that you-
reading now?
Do you know what you should read? You should be reading C.S. Lewis and what is it?
There's only shit
Oh,
copywritten though. Well, there's not many people
Oh.
on the stream. I could probably get away with it.
Whoa. Okay, then let's not talk about something copyright. How about reading from Marcus Aurelius then?
Yes.
From
That's it.
Meditations. Meditations are amazing. I listen to them quite
great.
regularly.
I
Very
have to
good.
read that and not fuck up. Thanks for the
It's not bad. It's a pretty easy read, actually.
Watch from just anything he says. Load,
Oh,
book,
just-
load. Jesus fucking Christ, it doesn't take this long to load the fucking book. What the fuck?
The
we
magic
go.
of
E-reader being a meanie.
technology.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the introduction.
Maybe I should have told the story of how the world in Norse mythology was created once. That's a pretty metal
Yeah,
story.
that would work.
Well, it was
we
created. It was created by Jane Foster Tolkien, right?
Or I'd be happy to start reading the Bible to you guys if you want.
I don't even know why it bothers me so much. It just does. It's the way he says it. I just know you sit there with this biggest shit-eating grin right now.
I do.
You
I absolutely do.
both of you, yeah. Who you? I just want to put out this. I just want to put this out here. Jesus was nailed to a cross, right?
Yes.
And Thor wields a hammer. Just think about that.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
That's right.
Oh, actually, yeah. What the fuck? Let me try and find it. Shit.
What are you thinking about?
I'm looking for a very based quote. Ah, yes. Okay, here we go. Yeah, this would be a good quote to read out. I posted this on the Discord the other day, but it's so relevant to the COVID situation. It's on General.
Ah, yes, that's one of C.S. Lewis's, was it?
Yeah, it's like the most based quote to our certain situations. Current situation.
Fantastic. Does one of our three sexy voices want to read that for us?
Oh,
What am I reading?
The quote second just popped in general.
I was looking at meditations.
okay, no worries. I'll read it then. Again, the new oligarchy must more and more base its claims to plan us on its claim to knowledge. Stop posting things in chat, man, like you're moving the thing on me as I'm trying to read. Sorry, I'll start again.
I'll DM it to you. Actually, wait. No.
Okay, no, that's okay. Again, the new oligarchy must more and more base its claim to plan us on its claim to knowledge. If we are to be mothered, mother must know best. This means they must increasingly rely on the advice of scientists, till in the end the politicians proper become merely the scientists' puppets. Technocracy is the form to which a planned society must tend. Now I dread specialists in power because they are specialists speaking outside their special subjects. Let scientists tell us about sciences, but government involves questions about the good for man and justice, and what things are worth having at what price, and on these a scientific training gives a man's opinion no added value. Let the doctor tell me I shall die unless I do so and so, but whether life is worth having on those terms is no more a question for him than for any other man.
Nice.
Very nice.
Based in C.S. Lewis pilled.
Beautiful.
Exactly. C.S. Lewis is almost Springtrap. That's what it is called, isn't it? Bloody Screwtrap Diaries, isn't it?
Screw tape letters.
That's it.
The screw tape letters. You read the screw tape letters and they'll fucking destroy you. You don't even have to believe in God. There's just so much in there where it's like the demons are talking about how to fuck with humanity, and you read it and you're like, "Ah, damn it, I do that shit."
Yeah. And you can get it for 83 cents if you want to on Google Play.
That's not a bad price at all. But don't shill other people, shill us.
All right. Okay, I have to get off. I'm about to fall asleep.
Yeah.
It's real
By the
funny,
way,
man.
Did you just want me to read the beginning of Meditations? Because he just goes through basically all the people that have helped him in his life. That's the introduction of the book.
Do it.
Those ones?
Yeah. Do it. This is a bunch of people who people like, because you can read their works as well. It's a wonderful recommendation.
Let's see. It's, number 1. My grandfather Varus, character and self-control. My father, from my own memories and his reputation, integrity and manliness. My mother, her reverence for the divine, her generosity, her inability not only to do wrong, but even to conceive of doing it, and the simple way she lived, not in the least like the rich. 4. My great-grandfather, to avoid the public schools, to hire good private teachers, and to accept the resulting cost as money well spent. My first teacher, not to support this side or that in chariot racing, this fighter or that in the games, to put up with discomfort and not make demands, to do my own work, mind my own business, and have no time for slanderers. Diognetus, not to waste time on nonsense, not to be taken in by conjurers and hoodoo artists with their talk about incantations, exorcism, and all the rest of it, not to be obsessed with quail fighting or other crazes like that, to hear unwelcome truths, to practice philosophy, and to study with Bacchius, and then with Tandisus and Mechanius. To write dialogue as a student, to choose the Greek lifestyle, the camp bed, and the cloak. Risticus, the recognition that I needed to train and discipline my character, not to be sidetracked by my interest in rhetoric, not to write treatises on abstract questions, to deliver moralizing little sermons, or compose imaginary descriptions of the simple life or the man who only lives for others, to steer clear of oratory, poetry, and belles lettres. Not to dress up just to stroll around the house, or things like that, to write straightforward letters like the ones he sent my mother from Senecia, and to behave in a conciliatory way when people who have angered or annoyed us want to make up, to read attentively, not to be satisfied with just getting the gist of it, and not to fall for every smooth talker, and for introducing me to Epictetus's lectures and loaning me his copy. Apollonius, independent and unvarying reliability, and to pay attention to nothing, no matter how fleetingly except the logos, and to be the same in all circumstances, intense pain, the loss of a child, chronic illness, and to see clearly from his example that a man can show both strength and flexibility, his patience in teaching, and to have seen someone who clearly viewed his expertise and ability as a teacher as the humblest of virtues, and to have learned how to accept favors from friends without losing your self-respect or appearing ungrateful. Sextus, kindness, an example of fatherly authority in the home, what it means to live as nature requires, gravity without airs, to show intuitive sympathy for friends, tolerance to amateurs and sloppy thinkers, his ability to get along with everyone, sharing his company with the highest of compliments and the opportunity and honor for those around him, to investigate and analyze with understanding and logic the principles we ought to live by, not to display anger or other emotions, to be free of passion and yet full of love, to praise without bombast, to display expertise without pretension. Or something like that, anyway.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Well, with no objections, we might leave it there for the night. Thank you very much for the reading, Spoon.
That's not an easy thing to read just off the bloody cuff.
You nailed it, man.
Sorry,
you did a pretty good job.
That was great.
Again, you're too hard on yourself, man.
No, it's
You are
because
one of
no,
them
it's
creators
no, it's
that
because there are
make-
freaking Greek names in it that I didn't want to fuck up.
Yeah, yeah.
The wording isn't so
They are
bad when it's Greek names. I'm like, shite.
Oh, you
Yeah.
did awesome. That was great.
Yeah.
It's fucking amazing. 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
10 out of 10, boys. 10 out of 10.
I'm hungry for breakfast. I'm gonna eat some
And bread
French
and
toast.
carbs and potatoes and rice and all things that Sargon says are a heresy. Bollocks to him.
All
Hail
right.
bread!
If
Hail the magic bread!
how can I say this? If Sargon is the keto fascist, I am the cardinal at the Church of Carbs. That is my title,
I like it.
and one I shall wear with pride.
Based in
And
Carver Hill.
I shall debate him on the battlefield of carbs, where I will certainly win, because actually he might win because there's more calories and fat. So there needs to be more of us than him. I think that can be done.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like it.
Positive.
Like
And
all
upon the
fascist movements,
battlefield,
they
you
will
shall be
lose.
assisted by the Shadilayan officer. Good luck.
All I've got to
Yes.
say is that the keto fascism says no to beer, and that's not on.
Yeah, that's not acceptable. There we go. Keto fascism
Not acceptable.
debunked.
I will say
Correct.
in one favor for them, they are in favor of spirits. And
Yes.
as a spirit man myself, I can't disagree with that one.
Well, Spoon, you just have to remember, we don't say that you can't have spirits. We just say that we're allowed beer.
Okay, touche,
Yeah.
good point. I can't disagree with that one.
You cannot deny that we are the superior ideology in this one.
Well, yeah, because we don't
Exactly.
dismiss the other one outright. We just say like, yeah, you eat cheese, we eat bread. How about cheese and bread? Good stuff.
Yes.
All hail the people.
Especially if the cheese has been melted. Melted
No, there's-
cheese.
Yes.
There is a way to subvert things and beat out Carl's keto fascism. The
Pizza?
bread. Well, no, the bread just has to identify as something that isn't bread.
A thick
So-
concept.
So basically, a bread made of almond powder.
Yeah,
that,
the bread-
that is possible.
No,
We can use
this
the
bread
tenets
I'm
of
eating.
Shadism
This
against
bread
the
I'm
keto
eating
fascism.
identifies as almond powder.
Ah, yes.
I think you
it
can
is
make bread out of
2021.
almond flour. So
You definitely can.
yeah, so that's your keto bread.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
like to make bread out of almond flour, but I do make a really good almond bottom, which I used to make a really good chocolate mousse cake, which I'm gonna make now actually.
Can I get a
Oh,
picture of it
sounds
when
good.
it's done?
I can
Yes.
send it to you.
Cool.
Yes.
I like food porn.
That is, you realize that is food porn, and
Yes.
that just says that we need a food porn channel because food porn is good.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
trying to trim into doing cooking streams.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
You know what? I will do a cooking stream when we
I
get
know where this is going.
50,000 subscribers.
Oh, that's a bit much.
Ha. Well said. No,
See?
that's fine.
That means I can avoid it as much as possible.
Or
Shoot for the moon,
it gives you
boys,
more
shoot
than
for the
enough time
moon.
to actually get up enough skills to do something cool for 50,000 people.
Exactly. All right, I'm done.
So
Going.
you better stop
I've got
practicing.
to,
is what
otherwise
he's
I'll keep
saying.
talking.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Good night, boys.
That is us for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you everyone in the chat for joining and supporting us tonight. We are going to be back here at the bare minimum next Friday, same time, 30 minutes after Lotus Eaters. We may try to do some other streams during the week, depending on interest and availability. You can hit us up in Discord to keep track of that. Otherwise, thank you again, and praise Keck.
I'm gonna go
Bye-bye.
eat some bread. Peace, my dudes.
Cheerio.